that shouldn't be said. It is not right. A woman is an adult female, and the court has made that absolutely clear. I actually welcome the judgment because I think it gives real clarity. It allows those that have got to draw up guidance to be really clear about what that guidance should say. If you want to fight for Remain, vote Labour. Now, there are some who say we don't need Brexit to work. We need to reverse it. I couldn't disagree more. Day after day, there are new allegations of sleaze, of favours, of privileged access. And it's all very well the Prime Minister saying, well, say now, well, I'm paying for it.
You've decided to repay £6,000 worth of gifts.
Lord Ali is facing an investigation. I wonder how concerned you are that your biggest donor was not fully transparent.
Are you saying you made a mistake?
It was right for me to make those repayments. Thank you. Of course, I wouldn't want Donald Trump round for dinner, but don't underestimate the danger to the world if Trump is re-elected this time around. I'm anti-Trump. I would like to send my warmest congratulations to President Trump on his inauguration as the 47th President of the United States.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan and I'll be your host all the way to 10 o'clock. Stand by for 3 high-octane hours of news, views and topical debate. Get stuck in, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I guarantee I'll play your message out. It is Tuesday, May the 6th. Here's what's coming up. In a few minutes, I'll be joined by Britain's best columnist, Rod Liddle, whose interview with BBC chairman Samir Shah revealed the excruciating nature of the state broadcaster's continued shameful refusal to call the murdering rapists of Hamas what they are, terrorists. As B bosses launch a review into the corporation's clearly biased coverage of the Gaza war, why won't the BBC accept that Hamas is a prescribed organisation that is banned all over the world and treat that bunch of medieval savages accordingly? Why does the BBC treat Hamas with such respect? 0344 499 1000. In other news, under intense pressure to reverse its wildly unpopular policies, our ludicrous Labour government today proudly announced it fully intends to carry on freezing pensioners to death with no U-turn on its self-destructive axing of the winter fuel allowance. And as Labour big beast Lord David Blunkett joined Tony Blair in warning against crazy Ed Miliband's green lunacy, the Net Zero Secretary carried on steering the government down its suicidal path to eco-disaster. Does Keir Starmer actually want to lose the next election? I think he might do, actually. 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, now controlling 10 major councils, Reform UK has banned all of its town halls from flying anything but the Union Jack, the St George's flag and flags representing local areas. Livid lefties are saying that means no flags for Ukraine and no rainbow pride flags. Exactly. 0344 499 1000. Plus, migrant horror as more and more hotels become asylum seeker hostels, and the nature of many of our country villages changes. 0344 499 1000. Also tonight, furious women swimmers have staged a protest at London's Hampstead Heath, where the authorities are defying the Supreme Court's biological sex ruling by still allowing men to swim in the female-only freshwater ponds. So-called trans men or so-called trans women are not women. That's the law. Why are so many organisations railing against it? 0344 499 1000. And finally, the po-faced war on classic TV shows. How the new Puritans are killing classic television of the past on the altar of offence archaeology. Do Only Fools and Horses, Terry and June, and so many other innocent shows from bygone days, from yesteryear, really require trigger warnings? Why do they insult our intelligence like this? Why do they infantilise us like this? 0344 499 1000. All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Tuesday night together. And as I just mentioned, I'm going to be joined for the first 30 minutes, first half hour, by Britain's best and I would suggest most prolific columnist. He's in The Sun, he's in The Spectator, he's in The Sunday Times. And as we will just discuss in a few seconds, he's also now a very successful host of a Saturday morning show on our sister station, Times Radio. Welcome, Rod.
Hiya, how you doing, Kev?
I'm all right, mate. It always takes me about 20 minutes to get through all of your bloody jobs, doesn't it?
Just don't do it. Just don't do it. We've got this scrote from Middlesbrough on.
Yeah.
That'll do.
All right, next week, that's a deal. But in your role as a successful host on Times Radio, you interviewed one of the better guys at the Beeb, I think, the chairman, Dr. Samir Shah. But he did not emerge from this encounter, I think, with flying colours. The story you wanted to nail him on, quite rightly, is why the hell is it that our state broadcaster that we pay for refuses to treat Hamas, that bunch of toe rags in Gaza, for what they are, which is terrorists. They are an official prescribed terrorist organisation, prescribed by this government, but the BBC won't go along with it. Let's remind ourselves of your interview with Samir Shah.
Do you consider Hamas to be a terrorist group?
I'll have to answer that in terms of the way we currently view it.
What do you think they are? Do you think they're a convocation of happy little squirrels?
I don't think that. I don't think that. But I'm here as the chairman of the BBC.
I know you are, but
I'm
you're
not
also
here
as Samir Shah. You exist as an individual entity.
I can tell you what I think when I'm Samir Shah. Right now, talking to the world, I am the chairman of the BBC, and we have taken the view as a board that we continue to use the word terrorist only with attribution. That's the position we take.
I think.
Although
I think you think they're terrorists, Samir, but I will leave you with your beautiful corporate answer.
I also think that Samir privately is aware that he's surrounded by lunatics at the BBC. This is the most offensive, ridiculous, baseless decision any broadcaster has ever made. I still can't get my head round why the BBC, it's not just the British government, it's governments all over the world. This is a prohibited terrorist organisation. They're basically prohibited because they like to spend their spare time raping women and setting fire to babies. We don't tend to approve of that sort of thing, but the BBC takes a more lenient line on that. Why do you think that is, Rod?
Because they're stupid and they're beholden to a fatuous ideology, and an ideology which has been quite successful, frankly. If you look at the number of morons who walk through the streets in their kefirs saying "from the river to the sea" without knowing what the river is or indeed the sea. Let's cut Samir a bit of slack. There is no doubt in my mind, and I think not much doubt in anyone's mind if they look at that, what he thinks.
Yeah, oh, no doubt about it. Yeah, as I say, he's one of the better guys there, and
He's a good guy.
He's a sensible man, and you could see him there, restrained by the shackles of a crazed corporation, a crazed left-wing corporation. To be honest with you.
Well, what happened was the board of the BBC decided to stick with that ludicrous idea. Even the UN calls Hamas terrorists. And, you know, the UN is kind of one of the chief supporters of Hamas. So, you know, it's a ludicrous situation. And Samir Shah knows it's a ludicrous situation. And Tim Davie knows it's a ludicrous situation. And that gives you the measure of the problem that Samir and Tim Davie have in changing the culture of the BBC so that it is not simply a kind of mouthpiece for that tiny 15% of the country which thinks that ladies with huge penises are actually men with huge penises are actually ladies, that Hamas is actually a liberational organization and Israel is a baddie in all of this and all that other rubbish which no one really buys.
And the BBC has been forced, and I think they've got a serious problem here that they should address with a great deal of vigour. They have a massive problem with their coverage of Gaza. I think they have a lot of in-house British reporters who go out there and basically file anti-Semitic claptrap. Jeremy Bowen, I mean, I don't know what's happened to him. He used to be a decent reporter. He seems to have gone mad, but he's not the only one. But their real problem...
Well, no, let me pick you up there, Kev. Because that's the point, and Jeremy Bowen is a decent reporter and a clever guy and a brave guy, and he does report.
Sure.
But why is he allowed to say that Donald Trump tells lies, but is not allowed to say that Hamas is a terrorist organisation? I mean, you know, there is no... The BBC pretends that it is being even-handed. It is not being remotely even-handed. And when you come to the Israel stuff, the real problem is that 15 to 20 years ago, the BBC decided that instead of sending...
BBC Arabic, that's what we're talking about, isn't it?
Well, it's coming to that. Okay. But the BBC decided worldwide, and it's a problem worldwide, that it wasn't enough to send white colonial fascist people like you or I, or indeed the BBC correspondents, out to report from Zimbabwe or India or Myanmar or indeed Israel. They had to be people from the local community. That was a betrayal of the BBC's job, which is to look at these disputes, conflicts and problems from a British perspective. So we didn't get any of that. It was a betrayal because half the time you can't understand what they're saying. And it was a triple betrayal with the BBC Arabic service, where we've got, you know, so many, 12, I think at least, members of the BBC Arabic service living in Palestine, just spewing out anti-Semitic hatred on a daily basis, and then turning up suddenly for your early evening news as an unbiased reporter from Ramallah or Hebron.
Yeah, and one of them last week was revealed to have posted that all Jews should be killed in this dispute, and this time, unlike Hitler, when Hitler dealt with them, there won't be any Jewish people left. And this is a guy who's been reported for the BBC on screen 12 times.
12 times.
12 times. But he's only one, Rod. There's lots of people in BBC.
There's loads of them. There's loads of them. And it's been going on all throughout the crisis. And I wrote about this back in November, a month after the Hamas's terrorist outrage took place against Israel, and suggested to the BBC that it would be better if they didn't employ Arabic service correspondents, because they don't. There are no correspondents from within Israel who are Israelis reporting their news. It's only Palestine. But the moron who leads BBC News, Deborah Turnis, just wrote an angry letter to The Spectator.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
What, weren't you very nice about the BBC?
Well, she suggested I was a racist for saying that it would be better if BBC correspondents in various parts of the world were British rather than from the.
Of course it was. Of course it would. Look, you know, the correspondent's job from, say, Gaza or Myanmar or Los Angeles or wherever, you send Brits out there to relay the story to their fellow Brits, to spot the British angle, what will interest them. That's how you do it.
Right. That is exactly right. And the BBC has lost total focus on that because it's been caught up in this anti-colonialist rubbish, which had just started as I was still at the BBC, and I started hearing things about how they didn't really want white people reporting from India and Pakistan and Myanmar and so on. They wanted people on the ground, and so now when you try to find out what's going on the ground, you invariably get a partisan description of what's going on, and also it's usually unintelligible because you can't understand what they're saying, and it's nowhere near, it doesn't relate to Britain the way that the previous correspondents made it relate to Britain.
It's often wrong as well, Rod. They're often wrong.
It's often wrong. I mean, the BBC Arabic service, I forget how many it is. It was over 80 errors in its broadcasting over the first 3 or 4 months in after the Hamas terrorist attack. I mean, the BBC Arabic service should be closed down.
It really should
just be closed down. Or what you do, you go back to the old model, which is London Calling, and you have people in there who are basically putting our view, because that's what we're paying for. They're putting our view out there, but they won't do that. They won't do that. They think it's imperialistic.
I'll tell you what, though, mate. You clearly have incurred Deborah Turness's wrath, because she has reserved for you the greatest insult that any BBC employee can deliver, and that is she's called you a racist. Racist. So you've really crossed the line, clearly.
Yes. Well, she's a moron and she's a poor journalist, and she should resign. And she is one of the main problems that the BBC has at the moment. She has been utterly useless, and her tenure throughout the 3 years that the war in Gaza has been going on has been characterised by error after error after error. She is a terrible mistake. And I used to work for people who were head of news at the BBC, and some of them were really good, and some of them were not that good. I never came across anyone as thoroughly inept as Deborah Turness.
Well, at the BBC, nothing succeeds like failure. You have to be really crap at your job, and then you'll almost certainly become Director General in the future. But Deborah Turness was one of the senior executives who were given an early view of that Gaza documentary, Surviving Gaza or whatever it was called.
She should resign from that.
And she watched this documentary starring an unheralded son of a Hamas terrorist, their deputy agriculture minister, if I remember rightly. She sat there and watched it along with other executives, said, yeah, no problem with that. I mean,
she's a bad journalist. Incidentally, the BBC didn't only do that. Once they'd commissioned Hamas to make a documentary. That's basically what they did.
Yes.
They commissioned Hamas to make a documentary. What they did after that was even worse. They commissioned Louis Theroux. You know, and then you saw Louis Theroux like a kind of octogenarian Adrian Mole. I mean, you know, wandering around with his stupid expression of eternal puzzlement and so on, in a documentary which was so unrelievedly biased. Yeah. It was even worse than the one done by Hamas. That's what Louis Theroux managed to pull off.
My favourite bit was when he was accosted by an IDF soldier, and he didn't quite use this term, but it sounded like, "Unhand me! Unhand me! Don't touch me! Don't touch me!"
And the child, that absolute child of a man. I went to the very same place 10 or 12 years ago to make a documentary. You film outside an Israeli checkpoint, they're going to move you on. Of course they are. You moron. You abject. Sorry, I want to replay the scene where Al Pacino tells Kevin Spacey what he is in Glengarry Glen Ross.
Oh, yeah.
You moron. You idiot. You half-wit. And that's what he was. That's what he was.
But that sums up the BBC's coverage of the Middle East. And Louis Theroux was merely sent there to sort of augment, give the documentary version of what we've been getting night after night in terms of pretend journalism. I'll tell you what, but very quickly, because we're going to move on in a second. But, the BBC don't seem to realise this is a massive issue. Night after night, you are letting people lie about Gaza on the state broadcaster, on the BBC. And Tim Davie, Deborah Turnis, they don't seem to have any sort of sense of urgency about the fact that the population of this country are absolutely fully aware that the BBC's coverage of the Gaza conflict is hideously biased, hideously anti-Israel and arguably anti-Semitic.
Oh, well, I have a problem there, Kev, because I think the British public doesn't necessarily think that. I think it's been swayed by legions of propaganda pouring down upon it. And actually, there's quite a lot of sympathy for the terrorists of Hamas. And I think the BBC is directly to blame for that,
Yeah.
I wish it were the case that the whole country was in revolt.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. I live in North London, and
well, there you are.
I talk to my neighbours. I know what you mean. Listen, we better go on a break now, Rod. When we come back, we'll talk about the fantastic politicians running this country at the moment and some of the brilliant decisions they've been making over the past couple of days. Stay where you are, everyone.
Nigel Farage and Reform do not have to do anything at the moment other than not be Labour or the Tories. All he has to do is not be Keir Starmer and not be Kenny Badenoch.
Right. Now, but also, I think what will also become a key battleground, of course, will be this business that was introduced by Zia Yusuf on Sunday and Laura Kunsberg and other shows, where he says, we're going to actively challenge the reform councils where we are, particularly in Kent, which will be an interesting one.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with columnist Rod Liddle. Rod, the Labour Party, or the Labour government today, amid intense pressure apparently to stage a U-turn on its fantastically unpopular axing of the winter fuel allowance, its policy to freeze pensioners to death. We were expecting some kind of a climb down. The Guardian was running a story this morning suggesting that they would recalibrate this decision and sort of make it a little bit more palatable. And what was Number 10 Downing Street's response today? It was to issue a statement saying, no. Basically, I've got the statement here. It says, the Prime Minister fully intends to carry on freezing pensioners to death. It's an unusual statement, but I mean, that's basically what they said today. Don't these people have any clue? Do they not know why they got such a shellacking by Reform last week? One of the main reasons was the axing of the winter fuel allowance. Another one was the net zero lunacy. And what they're doing now is doubling down on those two phenomenally unpopular policies, almost like a sort of sulky kid stamping their feet and saying, you can't tell me what to do, we're going to carry on. I mean, they're just inept and weird, don't you think?
It's what I expected, if I'm absolutely honest. Once we saw that incredible victory for Reform last Thursday, I suspect it made it clear to Keir Starmer that all the things which I've been saying to you about Labour in the last couple of months, Kev, how they have begun to recognise common sense, begun to take a sensible line on trans, begun to row back a little bit on net zero. We had Rachel Reeves and Tony Blair and various other people saying that net zero is not the way to go, that they cannot actually match Reform in those red wall seats, and that they'd better retrench quickly. Otherwise, they're going to lose even more seats to the Lib Dems and to the Green Party in the south and our university cities. And I think that is what you're going to see over the next 2 or 3 years. They're going to pull away from pretending to give a monkeys about the British working class and its aspirations about immigration, about net zero, about transgenderism. And I think you're going to see them kind of cozying up a little bit more to the lifestyle left, which they were once, which was once part of the entire party. So it didn't surprise me at all.
I mean, that was a stunning political earthquake we saw last Thursday and Friday.
And shouldn't be underestimated.
I absolutely agree, but I heard one Labour commentator, or one Labour apparatchik last week tell Alex Phillips, it was, on this channel. She said, what do you make of it? I mean, this is extraordinary. 676 council seats. Reform have taken control of 10 councils. They had an extraordinary, remarkable victory in Runcorn. And do you know what he said? I wouldn't read too much into it.
Well, you're going to hear a bit of that. You're going to hear. And this is what I've written about for The Spectator this week. They're going to say, you can't. It's just a bunch of council seats. You can't read too much into it. That's number one. They're also going to say, just wait until Reform has to run a few councils. Then we'll see how useless they are. Let me tell you about that. As soon as Reform run these councils, it will be a battle between Reform running the council and the council staff, backed by the unions and backed by the government, trying to stop Reform doing what they want to do. And I know whose side the voter and the ratepayer is going to be on in that particular battle. So you're going to hear that as well. You'll also hear a bit more about how all Reform voters are thick as mince. We've already heard some of that. Just as we did worked really well during Brexit for the Remain camp, that one, didn't it?
Yeah, it really did. What do you make of that convicted fraudster, the ex-Transport Secretary? She wrote a piece in the Times yesterday, Louise Haigh. She's got the solution. She has a great advice for Keir Starmer. She said, what we have to do is raise taxes. They're very astute, some of these Labour politicians, aren't they?
They're very clever, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, what they need to do quite clearly and quickly is to lower taxes for the lowest band of tax. You know, that is really what they ought to do. If they really cared about the working class, that is what they would do. But of course they don't. They're a middle class party which has been pretending.
Hello. Rod seems to have frozen. He's back.
I had an argument with Rosie Duffield, who I adore, about how I had an argument with Rosie Duffield about this a bit ago, and Rosie was saying to me that I quite like what Labour is doing at the moment, and she said, no, you've got it all wrong. It's just good luck that they've managed to come up with a few good policies. They don't mean it. And she was absolutely right. Rosie was absolutely right.
Yeah, well, I think you and I had that debate as well, and you.
Yeah. You were right as well.
I was right as well. You forgot me. I was right
about everything,
and you were wrong.
Yeah.
Listen, Rod, you're invariably right and very rarely wrong. It's just your constitutional sort of desire to somehow see a glimmer of hope in the darkness of this Labour government. I know where you're coming from. But mate, you are doomed to disappointment, I'll tell you. It's great to talk to you, Rod, as always. Thank you so much, mate. We'll talk again next week. The brilliant Rod Liddle there. His column will be in The Sun coming up this week. Also in the Sunday Times on Sunday, and the Spectator, which comes out on Thursday. So you can read him everywhere. Brilliant columnist, and now does a fantastic radio show on Times Radio every Saturday morning, 10 until 1 p.m. I recommend it. Now, next up, we're going to be talking to former Tory advisor James Price, and among other issues we must discuss is this jaw-dropping announcement that Keir Starmer's done a deal to allow Indian workers to come to Britain and be exempted from national insurance contributions. These would be the national insurance contributions that we have just had hiked. All the companies have got to pay more national insurance. We've got to pay more national insurance. But Indians, and what we need, folks, as you well know, we need many, many more foreign workers, don't we? You know, because we haven't got enough migrants in this country. So we need more foreign workers like a hole in the head. So he's encouraging more and more Indian workers to come here by saying, here, we'll let you off national insurance. That is staggering. It's staggering. What about us? What about us? Another absolute crap policy from an absolutely crap government. We'll talk to James Price after this break.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. James Price is in the studio. Hi, James.
Thank you for having me back.
I'm just transfixed by a call that we've had from Spain. She's a regular caller, Jane. We'll have to talk to her later. And the note I have on her call is, I just returned from Israel a week ago. You would not believe there was a war. Should be interesting conversation, so we'll talk about that a bit later. But in the meantime, I want to talk to you about net zero. Another Labour big beast, Lord David Bunkett, has climbed on the bandwagon now. Tony Blair last week saying this net zero stuff will be the death of us. And now Lord David Bunkett is saying exactly the same. So there's a head of steam building up there. Incredibly unpopular, their net zero policies. Just like axing the winter fuel allowance, it beats me why a political party, a government, would say, oh, look at these policies that absolutely everybody hates. Therefore, we got a complete shellacking in the elections last week. What should we do about them? Let's just stick with them. Double down on them. Unbelievable. They're so inept. Let's get to that in a second, though, because something else inept cropped up today. Two-tier Keir is now accused of implementing a two-tier tax system in which we're, for some reason, as part of a UK-India trade deal, going to encourage more and more Indian workers to come to Britain. I mean, you know, I've got nothing against Indian workers coming to Britain, except for the fact, do we need foreign workers? We got a country full of foreigners. They keep coming across the channel, and he wants to let more in. But anyway, he wants to encourage these Indian workers by letting them off, exempting them from the national insurance that we've just had hiked. I mean, what on earth is he thinking?
It is quite extraordinary, isn't it? And I can only assume that this was maybe, let's hope, a kind of poison pill that the Conservative Party had left in the negotiations that Labour didn't spot and didn't realise this was going to blow up. Because if they were the ones really pushing this, my goodness me, how bad are they at organising all of this stuff? So what we're looking at here is, you know, people in this country pay income tax, they also pay national insurance, and then, of course, employers have to pay their own version of that as well. There's no... It's a fiction. The whole thing is kind of made up at this point, right?
It's not actually national insurance, it's another form of tax.
You've got it exactly right. The technical term is it's all fungible. It all goes into the same pot. So really we should just do away with the whole thing and have a single income tax, like groups like the Taxpayers Alliance very sensibly talk about. That would be much more honest. But what's happened here, then, is that the Indians are getting away with this. And lots of other people on lots of other visas don't do that. My wife is American. She pays full taxes. She pays employees' national insurance. And she pays an NHS surcharge on top of that in order to use the NHS.
Does she?
Right?
That's interesting.
And she's an American. She studied here. She's got lots of qualifications and skills, unlike me. I mean, what is it that means that she's got to pay all this extra, as do millions of other people in this country from other countries, but the Indians are going to get away with this? What are we getting in return?
Well, Kemi Badenoch, we'll more of her later. She was presented with this potential deal when she was still business secretary, I think. And she says that she turned it down. She said that's just not fair. Robert Jenrick says today, to sum up, if you haven't gleaned exactly what this story is, Jenrick's put it well. He posted this on Twitter. This trade deal means that Indian workers here for less than 3 years will not pay national insurance in the UK. Starmer has hiked national insurance on Brits while giving an exemption to Indian migrants. British workers come last in Starmer's Britain. It's a fair interpretation, isn't it?
Yeah, as so often, Rob Jenrick puts it very, very well.
Puts it better than Badenoch.
Well,
more of that later.
I'm sure there's some reason why it falls under the justice purview, but he does put it very well. And it is a very, very iffy thing. Look, in general, I don't want there to be huge barriers between trade between countries. If we can do free trade, if British companies can sell stuff to India and vice versa, then great. We obviously have a very long and reasonably complicated history with India. There's obviously a big rising power. Lots of exciting, dynamic companies are there now. Lots of exciting things happening.
A trade deal is a good idea.
It would be a good idea, but having a little poison pills hidden in there like this is no good. Great if we can have India on side, because war with China is hopefully not coming, but is definitely a possibility in the future, and you want to have India on track. It's a major power in all kinds of ways. But when, as you say, we've got a problem of a glut of workers already over here, and wages being depressed as a result of it, wages being very, very low, lots of people from lots of other countries who don't necessarily always click immediately with the UK. I think Indians will click a lot better than people from lots of other countries. So in principle, this should be great. But as Kemi Badenoch says there, and Rob Jenrick as well, this is just not the way to go about it.
A trade deal with India, one of the great economic countries of the world now, is a great idea. But I don't think we should have buckled on this. You know, I suppose if that trade deal means that Modi wants Indians to come here and work, then, you know, I'm prepared to accept that compromise is always called for if you're in pursuit of a very good deal, which I hope the trade deal is. But I think a lot of people in this country will say, hang on a second, so this is more foreigners coming to live in this country, more visas, yet more visas being given to foreigners to come and live and work here. Bearing in mind that over the past few years we have had legal migration to the tune of 1.1 million a year. Some of them go home, many of them stay. So a lot of people in Britain will go, well, apart from the national insurance, which to say the least is infuriating, you know, so this means, this adds up to more foreigners coming here, being given visas to live and work. This country is going to burst at the seams soon, isn't it?
Right, and this is the sad reflection of what's happened with migration numbers. Britain is, and Brits are, incredibly open, tolerant, welcoming people, right? And we can have all the conversation we want about different foods and different cultures, all these things that migrants can come and add in lots of ways. And under a sane migration system, that's what we'd have. We would have tens of thousands of people perhaps coming every year who've got skills that either we don't have or perspectives that we don't have, or they just want to come and work really hard and they've fallen in love with the country because, I don't know, television programmes they've watched on the internet and stuff. That would be great, and they would enrich our lives and tell us interesting stories.
Not
and all
on
that
the
kind
BBC.
Of stuff. Absolutely not. But when we're at the scale we're talking about now, all of these people, they could all be William Shakespeare, but we don't know where they're all going to live. We're not going to be being paid for through national insurance for the NHS or for schools and all those sorts of things as well. Where are we going to put them all, and what is going to happen, as you say, to our communities and to our culture? I'd be happy with more Indians if they're people that want to come and work here and all the rest of it, but we've seen so many people from cultures that really are quite alien, much more so than between India and Britain by far, and who aren't assimilating and who aren't integrating, and the government does nothing to try to make that happen. And if that's the case, we cannot be having more deals that mean more and more people come to these shores.
Right, I've got to ask the audience, folks, what do you think about this? You're no doubt all hard-working people. Like all of us, you have to pay your national insurance. Your employers not only have to pay their part of your national insurance, they've just had a massive hike, which has put a lot of companies out of business. Bigger companies, like, for example, the one I work for here, News UK, their bill for this is astronomical. Astronomical, millions and millions of pounds. So we've got a big hike on companies. We've got all of us have to carry on paying our substantial national insurance contributions. And now we learn that Keir Starmer has done a deal to let Indian workers come here, and when they get here, they don't have to pay national insurance. I mean, that is two-tier something or other, isn't it? The two-tier taxing. There you go, two-tier tax. Don't you think? Let me know. I mean, it strikes me that is annoying, to say the least. 0344 499 1000. Well, I think we'll talk about, I want to talk to you about net zero, but I think we can do that after the break, and we can get in a little bit, as I mentioned, alluded to earlier, big head of steam among the protesters in the Tory ranks who feel now that Kemi Badenoch is not up to the job. There are plans afoot to oust her as leader, so we'll talk about that as well. Net zero and the fate of Kemi Badenoch next. Stay tuned.
Nigel Farage and Reform do not have to do anything at the moment other than not be Labour or the Tories. You know, all he has to do is not be Keir Starmer and not be Kenny Badenoch.
Right. Now, but also, I think what will also become a key battleground, of course, will be this business that was introduced by Zia Yusuf on Sunday and Laura Kunsberg and other shows, where he says, you know, we're going to actively challenge the reform councils where we are, particularly in Kent, which will be an interesting one.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with former Tory advisor James Price. Quickly, let's talk about net zero. We just, with Rod Liddle, I just discussed the suicidal Labour policy of axing or freezing pensioners to death, which they proudly stuck to today. We're going to carry on with that one. We like it. Had nothing to do with our shellacking by Reform UK last week. Yeah, it did. That's half the reason. And the other reason, or another major reason, is this net zero nonsense and that lunatic crazy Ed Miliband. Well, last week, Tony Blair sounded the warning and just said, look, we carry on like this, it's going to be electoral suicide. This is doomed to fail. And now Lord David Blunkett, another Labour big beast, has stepped onto the bandwagon and said exactly the same, saying that unless we do something about this, we are in big trouble. And yet, what do we get from this government? Nope. No change, no change. What is the matter with them? Why can't they look at what happened to them on Thursday and Friday last week? The absolute humiliating annihilation they suffered from Reform. Why can't they see it's time to do something about these phenomenally unpopular policies?
I think it is some kind of peculiar psychosis, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, when they first came in and everything went badly straight away, and the Winterfield payments was one of the stupid first things that they did do, that we were all told in government by the civil servants, oh, you should do this, and realising that, of course, it would be politically very toxic, as well as perhaps very damaging to poor older people if you don't have something else to counteract it. But I think that they got high on their own supply, Labour, and they believed all the stuff they spent 14 years criticising the Tories for. That the Tories are evil people, and as soon as we come in, everything will be fine and everybody will love us. And they still believe that. And I think they also believe what they say about Reform. They think Reform, far right, evil, bad, terrible people. Everyone is so stupid, but they'll come back to us eventually. They actually think like that. They genuinely believe it. And it's why they're still acting so stupidly in government, whether it's on net zero, on immigration, or on any other number of issues.
Honestly, they are so blinkered on all this. I heard a Labour lackey last week on this channel saying, well, you know, one of the things that, this was after the results, one of the things that we've got going for us and that Reform have got problems with is a lot of people really hate Nigel Farage, whereas nobody hates Keir Starmer. They are locked in their own bubble. Actually, Richard Powell, Saeed Power it was, everybody hates Keir Starmer, and not that many people hate Nigel Farage. They cannot break out of their own kind of groupthink bubble, and it's a massive problem for them. Now let's move on to. Oh no, I mean one other point we should make out in the Sun today. They're carrying this poll that reveals that Brits overwhelmingly believe that the cutting the cost of living must be prioritised over Mad Miliband's green claptrap. You know, they don't want to spend that. They don't want to have the highest energy bills in the world, which is what we've got. They don't want to be paying 5 times more for their gas and electricity than they pay in America. I mean, why can't the government see this?
Well, that's very selfish, isn't it? You should want to die in aid of this nebulous idea of net zero, right? That would be a lovely sacrifice to go and do on VE Day coming up, right? But they do. Don't forget, this is the same government, by the way, that wants to bring in assisted suicide, and that some of these people are saying actually it'd be very good to kill off the lower socio-economic people and all this kind of stuff. So they don't actually think life is that sacrosanct. It's not as important as their cherished socialist ideas, which is what net zero is, right? I'm all for trying to save the environment. I think that's very important. We should look after England's green and pleasant land, but we'll do that by funding cool, exciting new technologies of the future that give us huge amounts of clean, free energy. We'll do it through science and technology and through market capitalism, not through Ed Miliband, quite obviously.
Yeah, get rid of Ed. Ed must go. Let me know what you think. How swiftly would you like to see Ed Miliband leave the building? 03444991000. I'm thinking nanoseconds. Now, let's move on to the other party that should take serious note of what happened last week, of course, is the Conservative Party, the Tories. I don't know quite how close your affiliation is with these days, but it used to be close. They're in trouble. I think Kemi Badenoch, as many are now saying, is not up to the job. I've got a couple of quotes from dismayed backbenchers, senior MPs apparently. One was, these results were actually worse than last year's general election. We have somehow gone backwards. Another one said, we just cannot continue as we are, and she is just not up to the task. I mean, I feel slightly uncomfortable raining down on her parade, but she is proving that she isn't up to it, I think.
It's very difficult, I think, the inheritance that she had, right?
Yeah, I'm not undermining the enormity of her task, but she's not doing it well.
I think the problem is that when you inherit what you did from Rishi Sunak of only having down now, 121 MPs, it's the worst result I think the Conservative Party ever had under Rishi, who was just, I think, incapable of galvanising people, of exciting anybody, of dealing with the big structural problems that the country inherited. I think actually, although Liz Truss may have been a big failure, at least she tried to grapple with the enormity of things rather than the sort of tepid, managed decline of Rishi Sunak. So Kemi inherits a really poisoned chalice in lots of ways, and I think that she's right in the abstract that the Tory party should take a bit of time, remember what it actually believes in, and it has these great well springs and deep pools of philosophy and of deep ideas and of a great history when they led the country through great times, people like Winston Churchill and Margaret Thatcher and these sorts of things. I think with reform breathing down their necks, and I think with the government being as bad as they've been, as quickly as they've been, even someone as partisan as me didn't expect Labour to be as bad as they have been this fast. I don't think that Kemi Badenoch's idea of going slowly and trying to work things through methodically is really going to work, and I think therefore she needs to go a lot faster.
I think both of these parties, Labour and the Tories, they both knew that they were in for a bit of a kicking. But I think they were stunned at the magnitude of it. The Tories just don't really know what to do about it. As I say, Kemi Badenoch last week dismissing, after the reform's results, dismissing them as a protest party. Kemi, you've got to get your act together. You can't keep calling them a protest party. They are a very serious political force here. And if she genuinely believes they're a protest party, the Tories are in bigger trouble than I thought.
Yeah, absolutely right. And look, I think there's a world in which this could all work out very well for the country, because I think reform could take, as they've shown, places that the Conservative brand is still tarnished from the Boris and Rishi years, still tarnished from Margaret Thatcher, all these sorts of things. And reform could do very well there in selling the sort of patriotic right-wing messages in a very different way. I think the Conservative Party still has a lot of experience in it. It still has a lot of the scars on our backs. I certainly do. When I first started in government, I was a young girl with a dream, and you can see the effect that it's had on me. I know a thing or two about how things go wrong. And therefore, the idea of a potential future coalition of these two could be a great thing if done right. Not going to happen if the Tory party doesn't get its act together. Farage might not need it, but if it does, it presents a good challenge and battle of ideas. Look at what the two parties are saying on deportations of illegal immigrants, for example. They're chasing each other to the right and actually finally starting to catch up with where the public are at. The public want every single illegal immigrant deported straight away, no ifs, no buts, for example. So that could be a great thing, but at the moment, I think it's a struggle.
And obviously for Labour to go down that road is very, very difficult on a number of levels. But it ought to be navigable for the Tories, and yet Kemi always rails back. You know, I mean, I don't know, why doesn't she talk really tough on the migration crisis, for example, and yet she doesn't. You know, I mean, in the end, it doesn't matter that much. Just say you'll leave the ECHR. I mean, just say it. Why won't she do this?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think they will, and I think they will say it quite soon now. Again, her idea in the abstract of saying, I'm not going to make big announcements straight away until I've thought it all through, until we've worked out all the permutations, right? Yeah, in an academic context, in a university, that might be a nice idea. If you're writing a big book about something, that might be an idea, but there isn't the luxury of time. The hour is pretty late in general, and therefore she needs to get a wriggle on with these things. So it's not helped by the fact that Rob Jenrick, who you mentioned earlier, is doing so well in his brief and making all the waves and improving as a performer all the time and getting his message across and coming out with ideas.
Yeah, and so her stated strategy of not rushing, taking her time, no need to hurry here, I think was a big mistake. I mean, I think you always have to hurry in politics. You can never sort of go into reverse and take your time. You never can.
Right.
And I think she's made a big strategic error there, and she needs to get going now, doesn't she, in a major way, because the Tories are plotting, and you know what the Tories are like when they start plotting. Usually someone is going to die, and this time I think it'll be Kemi. They are plotting, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think once you get a taste for this sort of thing, you know, the number of different leaders the party had for a long time, and if you're in opposition, like the Conservatives are, there's not as much to do, so they sit around scheming. I don't think that would be great for the party to have yet another new leader if they can all pull together and come out with some great policies, because, as you say, we need to hurry, and actually a lot of the problems, people listening at home will be screaming and saying the problems aren't that complicated, right? Like, let's cut immigration massively, let's get the economy going again, let's deport people, let's actually lock up damn criminals. If someone says, you know, I want to blow up a mosque, blow up somewhere or whatever, right, let's deport them, let's put them in prison, right, let's sort out the funding for the NHS. This stuff isn't that complicated, and therefore say this popular stuff now and then start working on the details as time goes on.
Exactly. You know, I'm afraid when you're in opposition, your job is chasing headlines, isn't it? I mean, get yourself on the telly, get yourself on the radio, get yourself on the front page. She's not doing that. Robert Jenrick, in stark contrast, is all over the place. He's on massive manoeuvres, isn't he?
Well, I suppose so, but at the same time, it's just exactly as you say, that's what you've got to do. You turn on Talk, you turn on some other channels, and he's there, he's doing stuff. He's doing stuff on Twitter, doing stuff on YouTube. He's got people actually doing some research now, and some of the other members of the Shadow Cabinet are doing this as well. A guy called Andrew Griffith, who's the Shadow Business Secretary, he's really doing good stuff as well, and a few of the rest of them, and I think they will pop up at a certain point.
Hard as well.
Phillips working hard, right? So and this is the thing, although the party is massively reduced in terms of number of MPs, actually a lot of the ones we lost were pretty bad MPs who frankly should not be running anything. Exactly right. Whereas every liberal Democrat will tell you every silver lining has a cloud, right? But so there is talent in there. They just need to pull their finger out and get a wriggle on, because otherwise reform will totally eat their breakfast.
You're right, there is talent in there. Funny you mentioned the Lib Dems. There is no talent in there. Listen, it's fantastic to have you on board, James, as always. That's James Price, former Tory advisor. Get on the phone. Let us know what you think about all the issues we've been talking about. We'll be back in a little while, but you know the number, 0344 499 1000.
Is it transphobic to say only women have a cervix?
Well, it is something that shouldn't be said. It is not right. A woman is an adult female, and the court has made that absolutely clear. I actually welcome the judgment because I think it gives real clarity. It allows those that have got to draw up guidance to be really clear about what that guidance should say. If you want to fight for Remain, vote Labour. Now, there are some who say we don't need Brexit to work. We need to reverse it. I couldn't disagree more. Day after day, there are new allegations of sleaze, of favours, of privileged access. And it's all very well the Prime Minister saying, well, say now, well, I'm paying for it.
You've decided to repay £6,000 worth of gifts.
Lord Ali is facing an investigation. I wonder how concerned you are that your biggest donor was not fully transparent.
Are you saying you made a mistake?
It was right for me to make those repayments. Thank you. Of course, I wouldn't want Donald Trump round for dinner, but don't underestimate the danger to the world if Trump is re-elected this time around. I'm anti-Trump. I would like to send my warmest congratulations to President Trump on his inauguration as the 47th President of the United States.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, this is the second hour of tonight's Political Asylum, and in a little while I'll be taking your calls around about 8:30, but in the meantime, let's spend the next 30 minutes in the company of my former TV wife, the excellent, brilliant Alex Phillips. Hi, Alex.
Hello.
Now, I want to talk to you about the migrant crisis, and I want to talk to you about reforms encouraging policy about flags. I think that's very important. I was in Regent Street on Saturday night, and it was all bedecked with Union Jacks all the way down the street. It was quite a sight to see, and I put it on Twitter, and it was just a picture of Union Jacks on Regent Street, and it sort of went viral. So people respond to the Union Jack. A lot of our politicians don't seem to realise that. So we'll talk about Reform's new policy on flags in just a little while. But this has cropped up in the past few minutes, and you've already tweeted about it, and I'd want to get your take on it. It seems to me extraordinary. First of all, that this country is doing deals to let yet more foreigners come here on visas to work. You know, we're letting about 1 million a year in already, but we're doing a deal with India, and I suppose if the price of a very advantageous trade deal is letting a few of their workers come here, OK, I can go along with that. But what I can't go along with is that part of this deal, Starmer, a two-tier tax system, these Indian workers that come here won't have to pay national insurance. You and I and every other worker in Britain has to pay national insurance. The poor employers, the companies who employ people, have just had to hike. They've been ordered to hike their national insurance contributions to such an extent many companies have broken down, have gone bust. And now we learn that these foreigners, these Indian workers who are going to come here, won't be paying it. They'll be exempted. That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it was deeply unjust. I mean, look, India has pushed for visa relaxation schemes ever since the idea of having a free trade agreement with India was on the table post-Brexit. Now, I used to live in India. I adore India.
I do too.
I love Indians. I think they're brilliant, hardworking, innovative, exceptional people. They're polite. They're wonderful. You come across so many Indians now in the hospitality sector in the UK, and you couldn't find more gracious, disciplined people. But the point is this. They should be treated like British citizens when they come and work in this country, probably not sounding unfair, but not as well as British citizens. They should have to be able to provide proof of medical insurance. But what they shouldn't be is less expensive to hire than the native population. And under these rules, essentially, it's going to be 20% cheaper for an employer to employ an Indian worker than a Brit. How on earth is that supposed to benefit our society when we've got worklessness that is currently off the charts, particularly in the lower paid sectors, particularly among 18 to 25-year-olds? Maybe that's because they're feckless and want to sit around dreaming one day of being an Instagram star and don't actually do a hard day's work. But the point is, if they're not being paid decently or they're not going to be offered jobs, we're not going to break that egregious cycle. And if you are a pub and you face really high business rates, taxation on alcohol higher than it's ever been, energy costs the highest in the world, and you are struggling just to keep your doors open, and the staffing costs went through the roof because of the added insult of increased employers' national insurance, you're going to be looking at this thinking that's the only solution, to employ Indian workers. And like I said, you know what? Great. You know, you've already got lots of Indian workers in hospitality in London. I'm not sure other parts of the country. But why on earth aren't they British workers? As much as I adore Indians, this is not about race. This is not about xenophobia. I lived there, okay? But this is absolutely crazy that in theory it is now far cheaper to hire people from the other side of the world than it is your own young people. And it's particularly in those jobs that young people should be doing and young people should be getting that they're going to be punished.
Also, absolutely very good point that employers, companies will be extremely moved to employ these Indian workers because they'll be cheaper, much cheaper for the companies, for the employers. But also, imagine this, you're sitting, you're working, you're in the office or the factory or wherever, you're sitting next to a guy or a woman who's come over from India. That person, you're doing exactly the same job, that Indian person is going to be earning more than you, because they won't be paying national insurance. This is not going to go down well, is it?
Right, and one assumes they'll have the same access to all the public services that our taxes afford, be it the NHS, be it the road networks, be it the maintenance of railway lines, be it bus services, be it street lighting, you name it. There's not going to be a difference between what they can access and enjoy that's paid for out of our taxes, and yet they won't be paying the same amount. Now, people say, well, it's because they'll be paying tax back at home in India. Well, yeah, maybe about 30 rupees, which is equivalent of about, £3 or something. It doesn't bear to think about this idea now. And this is what successive governments have done. They've made it so difficult for businesses to thrive in the UK because of the cost of energy, because of the cost of business rates, because of how complicated the tax system is. They've made it impossible to be an industrialist or an entrepreneur in this country. And so business has essentially been imploding in on itself. And so what they do is they go for the cheap option of bringing in inexpensive foreign labour to paper over the cracks. They've done this repeatedly. This is not a new tactic. And this is what people voted against in Brexit, because people understood when they looked, if they worked on the production lines or they worked in hospitality or they worked on building sites, they suddenly went, how come all of these people have come into the country and are doing jobs driving down the wages, creating wage compression, and we're not being given a fair salary? And we're the people who live here. We're the people who want to send our children through school here. We're the people who want to buy a house in this country. We're the people who, in our old age, want to be looked after by this nation because this is our land. And constantly governments have been using the cheap and ineffective sticking plaster of handing industries and various sectors cheap labour from foreign countries as some sort of recompense for screwing them financially in all the other ways they can. But this doesn't work. It leads to terminal decline.
And it's very divisive. As Robert Jenrick said, British workers come last in Starmer's Britain. Let me ask the audience, please give me a call. What do you think about this? This adds up to the fact that these Indian workers who come here from India as part of this trade deal will no doubt be employed ahead of British people because they're going to be cheaper to hire. And also the British workers will be earning less than their Indian colleagues because their Indian colleagues won't be paying national insurance, but they will. I mean, this is just not fair. 0344499 1000. Let's move on to Reform UK, Alex. Now, they have announced that they've taken over 10 councils, brand new controlling councils. From a standing start, they now control 10 major councils, which in itself is extremely phenomenal. But what they've said is all these town halls that they like to fly pride flags and stuff like that, well, Reform UK said it will ban all of its town halls from flying any flags apart from the Union Jack, the St George's Cross, and other flags that represent local areas, county flags, that kind of thing. Now, the lefties, the Labour Party, said, but what about, that means they won't be able to fly Ukraine flags. Exactly. That means they won't be able to fly rainbow pride flags. Exactly. I think this is a great move. I'm sick of seeing these. You know, I've got nothing against Ukraine, but I don't see why all these, you know, councils around the country fly a Ukraine flag. I'd rather see a British flag. They'd rather fly a foreign country's flag than their own country's. And as for pride rainbow flags, again, good for the pride movement, good for rainbow flags, fly them anywhere you like. But why should they be on a council town hall? We should have a British flag there. Don't you think that Reform are on the right track here?
Kev, I'm so effing over flag politics. Like, get this flag nonsense out of my life. Same with Twitter emojis, rainbow lanyards, all of this nonsense symbolism. You know what flags were designed to do originally? Standards. They were there as you went into battle. You'd be on your horse with a ruddy great pole on your big flag saying, this is us, we're representing St George or the Duke of Northumberland or whatever, and everyone else would have their flag so you know who's on your side, and then you don't kill them. You go for the other people. It's supposed to represent where you're from, your country, your county, your region. Then what happened is the EU flag started to be everywhere. Their little bit of propaganda, oh, we've given you some money, so now you have to put our stupid little flag on your, you know, public toilets or on your local council or on your museum. Then it became all the sort of gay pride rainbow flags. Oh, yeah, you know, you come down to this museum and we're not going to throw stones at you because you happen to be a homosexual. Well, obviously you're not going to. Then it became the Ukraine flag. We must show solidarity with Ukraine. Yeah, I've got a great amount of sympathy for Ukraine. I really do. I'm an advocate for supporting Ukraine. But that doesn't mean the flag has to be outside the county council. That's mad. I would actually quite like to see our ancient flags brought back. Every county and every city in the United Kingdom has its own coat of arms. It has its own ancient flag. It'd be lovely to bring back that history and that heritage. Because I'll tell you what, Kev, when you drive around France or you drive around America, you're not seeing every other blimmin' flag that's ever been invented hung off the side of a building as some sort of woke appreciation society.
I don't know if you can see this picture, Alex, that's your name, isn't it? It was taken by a brilliant photographer on Saturday night. Me. No, I was just down in Regent Street and I looked down the street, you know, that kind of corridor of those majestic buildings, and there, unusually, you know, the entire street, the massive boulevard, as it were, just adorned, bedecked with these Union Jacks. And it was pretty inspiring. It was a hell of a thing to see. And of course, we saw this all over the country for VE Day. We're seeing it right now. And I think people woke up to the fact that we should have pride in our flag, and that's why I think Reform UK are on the right track here. People want to see the Union Jack. They like seeing the Union Jack.
Can't we keep this all year round other than Christmas lights, right? That would be a lovely thing when tourists come to Britain. People love seeing that. You know, when I go to France and I see a building with the tricolour fluttering on the side, I take a photo of it. It's a nice thing to look at. It's actually, you know, not just for us, the native population, but for people who are visiting the country. It's a beautiful photogenic moment. I mean, let's keep that year round, exchange it for Christmas lights during the festive period. Absolutely no to Ramadan lights. They can jog on. This is the only flag that matters in the country. Look, my other half who's listening to me do this interview just bought me the little flag that used to be my EU Parliament desk.
Exactly right. But look, also it's a good flag. I like it. It's a very distinctive flag anyway, and it represents everything that we should be proud of. Listen, Alex, let's go to break now. When we come back, there are a number of aspects of the migrant crisis I want to talk to you about. So everybody, stay tuned. Alex next.
Nigel Farage and Reform do not have to do anything at the moment other than not be Labour or the Tories. You know, all he has to do is not be Keir Starmer and not be Kenny Badenoch.
Right.
Now,
but also, I think what will also become a key battleground, of course, will be this business that was introduced by Zia Yusuf on Sunday and Laura Kunsberg and other shows, where he says, you know, we're going to actively challenge the reform councils where we are, particularly in Kent, which will be an interesting one.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with my fellow Talk presenter, Alex Phillips, the remarkable Alex Phillips. Now, Alex, before we get, I want to talk to you about the increasing number of hotels, particularly asylum seeker hotels, particularly in rural areas. I believe these hotels, the plethora of them, is beginning to change the nature of the British countryside. It's already changed the nature of many of our towns. The countryside is being dragged into this cultural shift too. We'll talk about that in just a second, but I wanted to get your take on this. You will have noted this, but we're going to play it right now. This is our friend Tim Montgomery, sort of, not quite clashing, but discussing with Lucy Powell. She is the leader of the House, cabinet member, Labour cabinet member, the Channel 4 documentary about the rape gang scandal. Well, let's just remind ourselves of what happened on BBC's radio show Any Questions last Friday.
I don't know whether you saw the documentary on Channel 4 about rape gangs over this.
We want to blow that little trumpet now, do we? Yeah, okay.
There was a real issue.
Let's get that dog whistle out, shall we?
Okay, Lucy. Yeah. The councils, there were so many people who were so afraid for good. Can I just finish the point, just for 1 minute?
Finish that point, Tim, and then I'll bring in Helen.
Look, there were so many people in local government, in the authorities, who, for good reasons, were worried about upsetting community tensions, that those girls went undefended. Now, there were good reasons for it, but no one has still been brought to justice for that. So you tell me, Lucy, that this isn't a culture in local government. It's just not true.
Dear.
Alex, so Sarah Pochin, the triumphant new MP for Runcorn, who won by 6 votes in that close count last week, the by-election. So that was a parliamentary election that happened on the same day as the local elections. Her first statement, because she's in the heart of that area, was to say that she will work tirelessly for the victims of the grooming gang, the rape gang scandal. Now, I suspect that Sarah has a human response to the worst sexual scandal ever to hit this country. 250,000, as many as 250,000 vulnerable white girls, young white girls, many of them underage, treated like animals, raped, tortured by male Pakistani Muslim gangs of predominantly Pakistani origin men. Now, Sarah said, I'm going to work tirelessly to get justice for these people because this scandal is still going on. But Lucy Powell from the Labour Party, she thinks this issue is just a political football, a dog whistle. Oh, we're going to blow that little dog whistle. Oh, ho, ho. Has she got no human decency at all?
She disgusts me. I find her utterly abhorrent. This is the same vacuous, venal, vain, pointless, vile woman who wore T-shirts saying things like, I never kissed a Tory. You know, she is the sort of, I really want to swear. I know I can't, but I'm going to telepathically send you the word I'm thinking.
I know what you're thinking. I've received.
Yeah, if anyone's going to respond to a dog whistle, I can imagine who it might be.
Yeah.
Because it is unpleasant, and it is this sort of bullying, spiteful, censorious, playground, mean girls type attitude, which actually intimidated people in coming forward about some of the worst atrocities ever committed, not just in this country, but in the world. When you read the court transcripts of what some of those wee girls went through, I mean, the things that were done, the mutilations carried out to their bodies, the bestial, satanic behaviours levelled against girls, children, vulnerable girls and children. And for her to puff up her chest and shout at Tim Montgomery and try and bully him into submission, accusing him of bringing up something for some other purpose, that he was trying to make a very valid point about the responsibility that local authorities need to shoulder in their abrogation of duty. I mean, what disgusts me is, well, that Lucy then sort of came the next day and said, oh, I wasn't trying to play down the issue of grooming. I was just saying I didn't like it when people use it for point scoring. That's what you were doing. Well, people like that Lucy is still in a position of power, receiving 90 odd grand a year from the taxpayer, strutting around the corridors of Westminster like she's the big I am. There's another Lucy who might have made, I think, a less important mistake when she put on Facebook.
Lucy Connolly, yeah.
And she's 32 months in prison. I mean, put those two Lucys side by side. Which is the nasty one? Which is the vindictive one? And which is the person who made the honest mistake?
Anyway, Lucy, I couldn't agree with you more, Alex, and I don't suppose Lucy Powell will be listening or watching this show, but if you are, Lucy, know this. You just ruined your career. It's over. I know that people in high places in Labour were mortified by what she said. They knew it was the political howler of the decade. You cannot treat an issue like that as if it's a dog whistle issue, as if it's some political football. Oh, you're just trying to hit us over the head with that, aren't you? I mean, for God's sake, show a bit of humanity. By the way, we do believe that Sarah Pocham will be exclusively on Mike Graham's breakfast show tomorrow morning, Morning Glory. So it'll be interesting to hear what she has to say about that. I'm sure Mike will quiz her on this. Her first statement was to say, and good for her, I will work tirelessly for the victims of the rape gang scandal. So well done, Sarah. Now, let's get back to the migrant crisis. Now, last week there was a story in the papers, Alex, saying that Datchet, lovely Thameside village town to the west of London, really pretty place, according to locals, has been spoiled by the fact he had a nice hotel in the middle. I think it might be called the Crown, I'm not entirely sure. Used to be a celebrity hangout. George Best used to drink there, but then again, George Best used to drink everywhere. But seriously, lots of celebrities. A nice hotel. Of course, same old story. 2 years ago, it's no longer a hotel, it is now an asylum seekers hostel, and it has completely changed the nature of that lovely town. People say that property prices are falling, that migrants are just milling around all the time with nothing to do, threatening residents and so on and so forth. So this is what I'm talking about, is these are pretty rural areas. We're used to cities getting their migrant hotels. We're used to, shall we say, the less tourist type places getting these hotels. Well, now a hotel just outside Chesterfield in rural Derbyshire. A nice looking hotel called the Sandpiper Hotel. Until 2 years ago, it was a 3-star Best Western. Very popular with tourists going to the Peak District, the nearby Peak District. It's got 46 rooms, and now those 46 rooms are filled with 80 blokes. asylum-seeking migrant blokes who apparently are terrifying the residents with antisocial behaviour, loitering on the streets, asking for money, leering through people's windows, and they've been warned. Locals have been warned, particularly women, not to walk on the local country trail for fear of foreign men following them through the parkland. So there you go, another nice place spoiled by a migrant hotel. Now, this is a snapshot of what's going on all over the country. More and more and more hotels being seconded by the government, despite what it says, going to reduce the use of hotels. No, they're not. They're seconding more and more. And the entire country, the rural areas now as well, are kind of getting changed by this, isn't it?
Yeah, and actually, I hesitate to say this, but in a way it's a good thing that people in sort of leafy protected areas are seeing what people in cities have had to be dealing with for a long time now. But this is absolutely disgusting. What are they doing? What sort of cultural vandalism are they committing? It's not just the fact that you've got men from other cultures who are completely idle. They're not working, they're not contributing to society, they're not paying taxes, they're just leeching off it. And that's fine, because apparently we're all supposed to bow down and kiss their feet because they've been through such trauma and come from such, fly-ridden, horrible hellholes of countries.
France, you mean?
Exactly, yes. No, but when you read other reports, they're working on the black market, they're having mates over to the hotels, they're smoking weed, they're like harassing girls outside the school gates. What on earth are we doing to our own country? What is this? And how can there still people in society who are going along with this, who are trying to tell people like you and I, who are saying this is madness? This is madness. If I wanted to go to Oman right now, or wanted to go to Kenya, where I used to live, or any other blimmin' country on earth other than those that are in the EU, and decided to take it upon myself to try and break into that country illegally, do you know what would happen? I'd probably be shot. I'm not joking. Security services would probably shoot me if I tried to break into a country and cross the border illegally. That is just the truth of what happens around the world. And I'm not advocating we suddenly have the army lined up on the White Cliffs of Dover. Far from it. And anyone who wants to interpret me wrongly on that is, deliberately doing so. But what I'm saying is it's very normal for a country to protect its borders. What you don't do when someone tries to break into your country, which is akin to someone breaking into your house, is roll out the red carpet, push someone out of the spare bedroom and say, this is yours now, well done. I mean, what on earth is going on? This is, we're going to get to a stage, Kev, quite frankly, where this problem is either going to have to be sorted out once and for all, or there's going to be an incident where the British people will take it upon themselves to want to sort it out. We've already seen what happened after the Southport murders. We've already seen the incendiary flashpoint, and we saw how the government cracked down on it because they know patience is hanging by a very thin thread right now with this stuff. And, I feel incredibly sorry for the people in that particular village who now feel outnumbered, who feel intimidated. I feel sorry for the parents worried about their daughters. I feel sorry about the girls whose freedoms that they should have been born with and been entitled to for their whole lives have now been stripped away because they can't go and meet up with their mates and walk to the bus stop or walk to the shop or whatever it is that they would normally be doing. This is absolutely not right. This is cultural vandalism by the very people that we pay our taxes to afford to represent us, and it's gone too far.
Yeah, last point, Alex, and you've been very vocal on this. When the local women around the Sandpiper Hotel have to be warned not to wander down the country trail, lest they be followed by these migrants, what we encounter there, I think, is a cultural difference, a cultural problem, insofar as these men often come from cultures where they don't think anything of blokes following women, sort of making noises and sort of but they come here and they do it here, and it's not acceptable, and yet they do it.
But they come from countries where you wouldn't see an unaccompanied woman walking down the street. That is the point, Kev.
Yeah.
They come from countries where in their culture, if you're a woman who's not covered up, if you're a woman who has the audacity to go to the market without a male chaperone, if you're a woman who, I don't know, has blonde hair, if you're any of those things, you are essentially subhuman. And whatever happens to you doesn't matter, because you're not obeying by the laws. You're a temptress, you're a seductress, you're a siren. You have to dress up like a ghost so you don't tempt the men who are, too weak-willed to be able to deal with, loose hair flowing in the wind. They come from countries where that is what they do culturally. That is how they've been brought up their entire lives. Then all of a sudden they land in the United Kingdom and they say young girls who are brought up completely differently, and not just to have freedoms, but actually kind of in modern society encouraged to be quite hypersexualized, to wear makeup and have lip implants or whatever, and have long hair, all this sort of things. And when you suddenly mix these two cultures together, what on earth do people think is going to happen? Yeah. Do they think people just land on the shores of Dover, hop out of a dinghy, and like the Men in Black have come with their magic pen and erase everything that's gone before, and they're sort of reborn as a British person? Or might it be that the way they've been brought up and what they've been taught about women, about what's acceptable and what isn't, is completely the photo negative of this country?
Absolutely.
It's just reality.
It's a massive problem, Alex, that you articulate brilliantly. Like you articulate everything brilliantly. Great to talk to you, as always. The excellent Alex Phillips there. Let me know what you think about what she was saying. So give us a call, 03444991000. When we come back, we've got a story from Westminster for you. It's an extraordinary story. We've got this Labour government, and all the politicians, net zero, and, it's electric cars. So a lot of the MPs, of course, and the people who work at Westminster have gone along with that, and they bought themselves electric cars. The Palace of Westminster has just banned them from charging their cars when they're there because they think it might cause a fire. So if you've got an electric car and you're a politician, or you're a lord, or you're one of the people who work at the Palace of Westminster, the House of Commons, the House of Lords, you can't charge your car anymore, which seems a bit counterintuitive, doesn't it? We'll talk to Isabel Oakeshott about that after this break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is
Welcome back. Well, let's go straight over to Isabel Oakeshott, our international editor. Welcome, Isabel. Well, this is quite a story. This is an extraordinary story because, of course, we have a government, we have a body of politicians in Westminster who tell us all, get rid of your petrol cars, you've got to go electric cars, save the planet. So a lot of people who work there, including the MPs and the Lords and the various executives who work at the House of Commons, House of Lords, what they call the Palace of Westminster, have got themselves electric cars. They've just been banned from charging them while they're at work. What is that all about?
Well, it appears that the parliamentary authorities and their health and safety expert advisors have decided that possibly these electric car chargers may blow up the Houses of Parliament. Guy Fawkes.
Where Guy Fawkes failed, the electric cars will succeed, they fear, yes?
The modern version of Guy Fawkes is the electric car charging point. So MPs and peers are slightly up in arms about this. You know, a number of them, as you say, have gone along with the kind of hectoring government propaganda that everyone should get electric vehicles. And now there are going to be very few charging points. The ones that are at issue are in an underground car park. It's not a car park that people walking past the Houses of Parliament would probably be aware exists. It is, as the name suggests, underneath the building. And that is where particular fire safety concerns have emerged about these charging points. Quite a lot of fires relating to electric vehicles happen while they're being charged. And that's obviously particularly dangerous in an enclosed space, and especially disastrous were it to happen underneath our parliament. So that's it, folks. They're not going to be allowed to charge their cars down there. It's being removed. The fire experts have made their decision, and there will still be, I think, a couple of charging points in a different location.
Well, I think there's four. There's going to be 4 chargers in Speaker's Court, which if you walk past the House of Commons, sort of fairly near Big Ben, you'll see a kind of courtyard and very few cars are allowed to park there, 3 or 4. It's where the Prime Minister parks and it's where the Speaker parks. These are very special. But anyway, in order to be able to charge your car there, you're going to have to get a charging card from the Speaker's office. That's going to be difficult because Lindsay Hoyle is unlikely to be there. He'll be on another one of his foreign trips, so I can see all sorts of trouble ahead.
Yeah, I mean, just to put that in perspective, the 4 charging points. I mean, there's 650 odd MPs, and these days probably practically 1,000 members of the House of Lords. So I mean, you get
going to be a problem, isn't it?
You get far more charging points in, you know, your average Tesco car park than you will do in Parliament. And I just think this is another blow for Ed Miliband.
Yeah, isn't it? Isn't it? It sends him, or Ed will not be at all pleased with this, will he?
He will not, because, you know, he's busy trying to tell us that in fact, the government position, the actual regulations are that there will be no more petrol and diesel new cars in the UK after 2030, which is rapidly coming upon us. So, you know, the government is basically press ganging us into getting these vehicles. Now, some people think they're a great thing, but they're not a great thing if you can't find anywhere to charge the damn car.
It says these charging points are due to be removed on health and safety grounds following a review by the safety and fire teams in consultation with the chair of the administration committee. So another one bites the dust in terms of the green project. Very funny and very counterintuitive. But anything that annoys Ed Miliband is good enough for me. Isabel, great to talk to you. Be on tomorrow, yeah? We'll talk to you tomorrow?
Indeed.
I look forward to that. Thank you very much for another funny scoop. That's Isabel Oakeshott, our foreign editor, our international editor, in fact. What do you think about that? The MPs aren't allowed to charge their cars, so they bought electric cars. I won't better drive them anymore, not to work anyway. 03444991000. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Hampstead freshwater ponds, very famous London institution. There are 3 ponds, I live fairly near them, 3 ponds on the beautiful Hampstead Heath. that people can go swimming in. There's a male pond for blokes, as you might have worked out, a female pond for women, and a mixed pond. The Supreme Court's biological sex ruling should have changed everything, because hitherto trans women, as they call them, that's blokes who pretend to be women, have been allowed to swim in the real women's pool. The Supreme Court ruling should have changed all that, but in the manner of these things, the authority that controls the ponds on Hampstead Heath is railing against it, and blokes can still swim in the women's only pool, and the ladies there have been demonstrating in fine style. We'll talk to the leader of this protest group after this break.
Nigel Farage and Reform do not have to do anything at the moment other than not be Labour or the Tories. You know, all he has to do is not be Keir Starmer and not be Kenny Badenoch.
Right.
Now,
but also, I think what will also become a key battleground, of course, will be this business that was introduced by Zia Yusuf on Sunday and Laura Kunsberg and other shows, where he says, you know, we're going to actively challenge the reform councils where we are, particularly in Kent, which will be an interesting one.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about Hampstead Heath. There are some famous swimming pools. They're freshwater ponds, as I was explaining before the break. 3 of them. And in the line of in the manner of these things, for some time now, the City of London Corporation that controls these ponds has allowed what they call trans women. That's kind of blokes who want to pretend that they're women. Men in dresses, if you like, or bikinis or whatever the hell they wear when they go. They've been allowed to swim in the women's only pool. There are 3 pools there. One's for women, One's for men, we're looking at it now, and the other is mixed, which seems fair enough. But men are what my next guest, and I think her colleagues, her companions, felt was that with the Supreme Court biological sex ruling, that men would no longer be allowed to swim in the women's pool. Warm welcome to Hannah Clark, a women's rights activist. But Hannah, you have discovered that is not the case.
Well, it seems that way, doesn't it? We were stopped from entering the ponds yesterday, the men's pond. They had a policeman there and 2 security guards on the gate and wouldn't let us self-identifying men, so women claiming to be men, into the men's pond.
Right, this is what they were chanting. It's a good chant. A person with a penis is a man. A person with a penis is a man. That was your chant, wasn't it?
That was one of them, yes, it was.
One of them, and the other one, this was a family show and all that. No ghoulies in our poolies. Catchy slogans are very important in political campaigns, so I'm very much on your side, by the way. I live near there, and I think you should have your own pool. Now, we'll get your thoughts on the fact that blokes can still swim with you, according to the City of London Corporation, in a second. But when you, as part of your demonstration yesterday, on Bank Holiday Monday, you sort of jokingly, some of you dressed up with put a full beard, and we're looking at it now, and moustaches and things like that, went to the men's pool, the men's only pool, and said, we identify as men, let us in. They wouldn't let you in. Is that the normal rule?
I don't know. It's happened to us a couple of times when we've attended now. We did this originally in 2018, and we were, in that instance, the police were called and we were escorted out of the pond, even though we had very much self-identified as trans men. But it seems that when men are inconvenienced by this self-identity nonsense, that there's more action taken by the authorities.
And I was just trying to discern whether or not, yesterday they banned you, even though you said we were identifying as men. They banned you from going into the men's pool. So I'm trying to work out whether normally trans women, as they call them, men who identify as women, are allowed into the women's pool, but trans men, women who identify as males, are not allowed into the men's pool.
Well, that would be logical, wouldn't it? That if you're to allow one in, you're to allow both in. But from our experience, having gone to the men's pond, we weren't allowed in. So all I can speak from is my experience on this.
Well, tell us what you think about this situation. You must have felt, because I know, being a local myself, there's been a lot of campaigning about this for a long time, hasn't there? You must have felt that the Supreme Court biological sex ruling a couple of Mondays ago would have changed the picture, that you finally would have won your right to have your own females-only space, because frankly, it's not lawful now for biological males to be allowed into women's-only spaces, is it?
Well, exactly, and in fact, it's not just that it's not lawful now, it's never been lawful. It was just clarified. But the Corporation of London has very much dug its heels in. It did this consultation in 2018 where they said that anyone that claimed that they were wrong using gender to identify or self-identify people into the ponds was in breach of the Equality Act. They said that we were all wrong saying that, and they've now doubled down on that position, saying that it's very complex and they need to think about it very
not
carefully.
Complex, is it?
I know, it's
really not complex.
It's the simplest thing in the world, isn't it? We all know what a woman is, and these people have always known what a woman is. They've just been lying for the last decade or so.
Yeah, it's still a source of, shall we say, a surprise, bemusement that it took 5 years for the Supreme Court, the most learned legal brains in the country, to work out what a kind of 3-year-old kid knows, that when you're born a woman, how do you define a woman? I know, it's someone who's born a woman. How about that?
Exactly.
But this is typical, though, isn't it? The City of London Corporation, just like the NHS, just like so many organisations now, are railing against that moment of common sense 2 weeks ago when the Supreme Court decided biological sex means biological sex.
Well, absolutely. I think that they've all been very embarrassed by it because they've been, towing the Stonelaw line, as it were. They've been saying that trans women are women and that we must allow trans women into every single space where a woman can be vulnerable. and they've been shown up to be wrong. And I think that people are very unwilling to admit that they're wrong and find it quite hard to row back sometimes, even though in this instance they've got the perfect excuse. You know, we made a mistake, we and everyone else misinterpreted the law. But now we've had clarification on it. It's very simple, it's very straightforward. A woman is born female, a man is born male. It's very easy to separate on those bases.
Now, Sharon Davis is a good friend of this show. She's always coming on, tireless women's rights campaigner. Also, the fantastic women from Sex Matters, Maya Forstater, Helen Joyce and the gang. Fiona McInerney. They're great women who've fought tirelessly for this breakthrough a couple of weeks ago. Well, Sharon in particular, and the girls from Sex Matters, they just say they're going to start. One of them, Helen Joyce, came on a couple of weeks last week. She said she was stunned by all the resistance to this. I said, Helen, I'm not, but. They and Sharon, they say they're going to sue left, right and centre. Every time they come across something like this, they're going to sue. Will you launch legal action against the City of London Corporation?
I haven't actually thought about that just yet.
Will you? I think it's a good idea.
I think it's possible, and I think that, you know, this is, again, it's something that we're going to have to refer back to the courts, because no one's taking the common sense line and doing the easy thing.
I mean, I mean, it's not my position to advise you what to do, but if you take the City of London Corporation to court on this and saying, you know, you are not allowed to let biological males into our pool, they are doomed to lose.
Yeah, one would hope so.
So will you do that?
Can I say maybe?
Yeah. Talk to your friends and get it together. How long have you been going to the pool?
I just go occasionally because I live in South London. It's not really my manor, as it were. But most of the women who attended the ponds swim yesterday are regular attendees. And,
you know, have they, over the past few years of madness about this sort of thing, you know, blokes with beards saying I'm a woman, and then we have to go, oh yes, indeed you are a woman. Have they encountered guys coming in? Or,
yeah,
you know?
Yeah. I mean, I know of several occasions where people have encountered men wearing very skimpy swimwear that don't contain things that they're not designed to contain at the women's pond.
But that is a very confrontational thing to do on the part of these guys, isn't it? Because there's a male pool, okay, they want to pretend to be a woman, they don't want to be there. But there's also a mixed pool, so it's deliberately confrontational.
And this, I think, is part of the crux of all of this. We've always argued for third spaces for trans people. You have your women's, you have your men's, and you have your mixed sex. And in the case of Hampstead Ponds, there has always been the mixed sex option, and this has just been issued. So it does show that the transgender activists here aren't after a mixed space. They're not after a solution that works for everyone. What they want is women's spaces to be opened up to them and for us to capitulate to them.
Exactly. And, you know, I think they should be dispatched now. I don't think they can go in there by law. A spokesperson for the City of London Corporation told us, in line with many other affected organisations, we are carefully considering the judgment and awaiting statutory guidance from the HRC, the European, well, they've done that the wrong way. Oh, yeah, that's the Equalities and Human Rights Commission, isn't it? Which by law, service providers must take into account. We take our obligations very seriously, and a carefully considered decision in this complex matter will be taken in due course. We remain committed to providing a safe and respectful environment for all. They don't want to implement the Supreme Court's ruling, do they?
No, because they don't want to admit they're wrong, and some very prominent members of the City of London Corporation have really stood up on this matter and told women to shut up and sit down. And I mean, if you look at that statement, it's quite a lot of words that say absolutely nothing. They're waiting for the statutory guidance. There's already interim guidance that's out. And as we said to start with, it's not a complex matter. It's the most simple matter that you'll ever actually have to deal with, surely.
Absolutely. Well, I've got you down as a women's rights activist, so I'm assuming that it isn't just the Hampstead pools that you campaign for equality in. I mean, generally speaking, as I say, I was speaking to Helen Joyce from Sex Matters last week, and she, very smart lady, but she was shocked about the level of resistance that is being put up against this ruling. Have you been surprised?
Not really, because I have been doing this. I started in about 2017 or 2018, so this has been quite a long time for me. And the vitriol that we have received from people for just saying women want to meet on their own, going to a meeting where you listen to speakers talking about their experience working in the domestic violence sector or things like that. We've had protesters outside, you've had venues cancelled because trans rights activists have telephoned and bombarded venues to stop us from even meeting to speak. So the resistance to this, to me, is just an extension of that behaviour, and it just feels like a big old tantrum. They've lost and they don't like it, and they're going to put up as much of a fight as they possibly can. But you're telling me about the guys turning up in skimpy bikinis, with all that entails. I mean, that's just a very aggressive thing to do, and it must make the women who go there, feel really intimidated. I would say so. I mean, I would feel intimidated by it, and of course,
I think I might.
You'll have a lot of women who will self-exclude as a result of this. They'll see it, they'll feel uncomfortable, they'll go away, and they won't come back. So something that's quite precious for women with the Women's Pond has been spoiled for so many women. Yeah, and
as I say, it's just very strange that these guys in the bikinis won't at least go to the mixed pool, isn't it?
Well, it seems like a perfect solution, doesn't it? Apart from it's not about finding a solution and for everyone getting on and managing life together as we all have to. It's about taking something that's not theirs.
You see, I'll tell you what annoys me about, among the many things that annoy me about the issue, is I think that the way women have been treated by not all trans activists, but shall we say trans. The extremist trans lobby, which has affected the NHS, it's obviously affected the City of London Corporation and very many other organisations. It's the sexism of it. That in the NHS you can't call a woman, it's a person with a cervix, a person who menstruates. You can't say pregnant mother, you have to say a person who's pregnant, and so on. It's the eradication of women. Why do you think people want to do that?
I think because it's a game of punching down, isn't it? There's always been sexism all throughout time, and this is just a new progressive way for people to be sexist and to abuse women and to I suppose diminish women.
That's it. That's what it is.
We maybe took up too much space, and they feel that we should get back in our boxes, but I don't think that's going to happen.
But you're not going to give up on the Hampstead Heath
Absolutely
Pond
not.
Issue. Good, excellent. That's Hannah Clark, women's rights activist. Let me know what you think about this. I think it's a disgrace. Let the ladies have their own pool. What's wrong with that? 03444 991 1000. When we come back, we're going to be talking about TV shows, classic TV comedies, which are being neutered by various regulations and authorities that say that programmes like Only Fools and Horses and Terry and June require trigger warnings. It's ridiculous, isn't it? That next. Stay tuned.
Is it transphobic to say only women have a cervix?
Well, it is something that shouldn't be said. It is not right. A woman is an adult female, and the court has made that absolutely clear. I actually welcome the judgment because I think it gives real clarity. It allows those that have got to draw up guidance to be really clear about what that guidance should say. If you want to fight for Remain, vote Labour. Now, there are some who say we don't need Brexit to work. We need to reverse it. I couldn't disagree more. Day after day, there are new allegations of sleaze, of favours, of privileged access. And it's all very well the Prime Minister saying, now, I'm paying for it.
You've decided to repay £6,000 worth of gifts.
Lord Ali is facing an investigation. I wonder how concerned you are that your biggest donor was not fully transparent.
Are you saying you made a mistake?
It was right for me to make those repayments. Thank you. Of course, I wouldn't want Donald Trump round for dinner, but don't underestimate the danger to the world if Trump is re-elected this time around. I'm anti-Trump. I would like to send my warmest congratulations to President Trump on his inauguration as the 47th President of the United States.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. A lot of phone calls all stacked up here, ready to roll. So in about 20 minutes or so, it's your show. 0344 499 1000. The floor is open. I've also got lots of messages. I've got some WhatsApp voice notes. So it's all about you in about 15-20 minutes. So if you want to talk about any of the issues we've been talking about, or indeed anything at all, give me a call. 0344 499 1000. The big issue that's got people very wound up tonight. Breaking story only happened earlier today, this afternoon. Keir Starmer has done a deal with India, the leader of India, Modi, which will allow Indian workers, it's a trade deal, so it's a sort of part of the trade deal, allow loads of Indian workers to come to Britain. That's what we need, isn't it? More foreign workers, more visas to foreigners to come and live here. We really need that. Anyway, that's bad enough, so he's allowed that, so we're going to get loads and loads of more foreign workers. I say nothing against Indian workers, they're very good workers, they're very hard-working people. It's just this country's kind of full. So more foreign workers coming over here, but the big deal is that these Indian workers under this agreement with India won't pay national insurance. You pay national insurance, I pay national insurance, your employers have just had a massive great hike on their contribution to your national insurance. So we all have to pay, but these Indian workers who come from India, you know, foreigners who arrive in our country, possibly doing the same job as you in the next desk or the next position in the factory or whatever, they won't be paying national insurance. So if you're doing the same job as one of these Indian workers, they'll be earning more than you because they're not paying national insurance. Plus the fact, as Alex Phillips so astutely pointed out, this is going to make these Indian employees much cheaper to hire for companies, because companies have now got an astronomical national insurance bill to pay on all of their staff, thanks to the national insurance hike that the government promised us they wouldn't impose on us. That happened during Chancellor Rachel Reeves' disastrous budget last October. So, these companies will have a real advantage. They will be keen to employ these foreigners, these Indian workers, because they'll be so much cheaper. And then when they do hire them, if you're still employed, you'll be next to them and you'll be earning less than them. This is two-tier taxing, as they're saying, and it really isn't fair, is it? What do you think about that? Foreign workers being prioritised over British workers. As Robert Jenrick said, British workers come last in Starmer's Britain. 0344 499 1000. Give me a call. Now, before we get to that, though, let's talk about trigger warnings. They're kind of ridiculous, I think, but we have more and more of them now. We know about them on Shakespeare and things like that. Macbeth, this play may feature death. really? Oh dear, you know, and so on and so forth. Ludicrous trigger warnings on all sorts of stage productions. Only today we learned of a musical version of the Full Monty. You know the Full Monty, where the guys, all, you know, for charity, all strip off. You know, so the whole point of the film, and now a musical, is that it leads up to the ultimate scene, which is the guys strip off, the Full Monty. Anyway, there's a new musical version of the Full Monty. I think it starts in Portsmouth. It's coming with a trigger warning. Warning, may features nudity. Huh? Well, yeah. Why does it need a warning? It's pathetic, isn't it? It infantilises us, I think. But where this is happening the worst is in the arena of television, particularly classic television, TV favourites of the past. More and more channels are dealing in this kind of entertainment, nostalgia channels. So people love to watch, I don't know, Only Fools and Horses, Terry and June, Are You Being Served? You know, all of those comedies. Anyway, all of them are getting trigger warnings. I mean, why would it Only Fools and Horses? Why would you need to be warned about this? So basically the campaigners and many of these companies that are putting on nostalgic television programmes are saying that the rules imposed on them by Ofcom, that's the sort of broadcasting watchdog, are getting so suffocating, so oppressive, that they're completely neutering the programmes they're trying to entertain their audience with. You know, so they're being changed out of all recognition. So let's talk to a TV presenter on the Rewind channel, Alex Dyke. Welcome, Alex.
Hi, Kevin. Thank you very much for having us on.
A pleasure. Well, tell us about your channel first. Do you show these classic old comedies, classic old dramas?
Yeah, we do. Most of, probably 90% of our output is classic television. And just because we're a channel, Kevin, that's on Freeview and Sky and Freely, people assume that TV channels are massive. They're big corporations. This channel is owned by 2 people, and there's only 4 of us on the whole channel. So buying television programs from us, we have to think very carefully about what our viewers want and what we can afford. And if you are fed up with non-stop repeats of Only Fools and Horses on a loop, we've got some of the more interesting classic British comedy that you may have forgotten about. However, these shifting sands of what is offensive and then what is not offensive is impossible for people like us, because you have to keep putting these trigger warnings out, as you say, or maybe editing bits out of the program. And we feel very strongly about airbrushing history. We don't want to put anything out that's offensive. Anything we don't want to be broadcasting the N-word. It's too poisonous. We don't want to be putting hatred on TV. But what we don't want is Dame Thora Heard having to be edited in the situation comedy In Loving Memory from the 1970s.
I remember that. I mean, I'm so old I can remember that. You mean that gets a trigger warning?
That'll get a trigger warning, but also we might have to get the scissors out and snip the tape on that. Also, we're showing Please Sir with John Alderton. I'm sure you remember that ITV.
I do.
And one of the biggies for us is Carry On Laughing. Now, we all know
which was like a television version of the Carry On movies.
Yeah, with all of the, you know, Sid James and all of the gang in it, Barbara Windsor. Now, we all know that it's saucy, seaside postcard, sexy, bawdy humour.
It's just an end of the pier nonsense, not to be taken seriously. And, of course, Carry On now has sort of basically been culturally cancelled, hasn't it? As if it was some terrible crime of the past, just because, you know, it was a bit kind of, I don't know, shall we say, it's kind of full of stereotypes and archetypes and all that kind of stuff. You know, girls with big breasts, guys lusting after them, all that kind of dialogue, that kind of narrative. That's no longer allowed by the new Puritans, right?
Well, we can show it, but of course we have to look at it first and edit it. And these small channels like Rewind TV, we can only afford to buy certain programs. We don't have millions in the bank to get the big blockbuster movies. And we're very proud of the work that we do. And we see ourselves, Kevin, as saving British comedy, and by showing programs that people wouldn't see. Now, back when we were young, we had those water cooler moments where if Monty Python was on BBC Two or BBC One, we'd all be talking about the next day at school because most of us would have watched it. Well, these days, television and radio is so fragmented, I just can't see the problem in just letting this stuff just sit. Let's not airbrush history.
Well, why, Alex? I mean, it seems to me that the authorities, and by the way, I should stress, Ofcom say they are not censors, that they just offer guidance. And of course, if you broadcast the wrong stuff, you can end up in trouble. And there is some stuff from the past. I mean, I'm a bit of an absolutist about, I think, leave everything alone, let people, let grown sentient adults make up their own minds about what they're watching. I don't need to be infantilized by some childlike warning. You might find some of the content offensive. You know, I just think it's pathetic. However, you know, I can accept that there are certain words and certain lines of humour that worked, shall we say, back in the 60s and the 70s, that wouldn't work now. Times have changed. But that said, I think that channels like yours and the various other similar channels that do this kind of thing, I mean, you've got Talking Pictures TV, haven't you? Rewind TV, your one, and quite a few more. I think you should be able to show exactly what you want, and then we grown-ups, when we watch it, we can make up our own mind. And we're not so stupid that we don't understand that times have kind of changed. That's half the reason I mean, why on earth would you need a trigger warning on Terry and June?
I know, it's crazy. And if you do watch these programs and they are slightly out of kilter with the times we live in, that's a good guide of how things have changed and how far we've come. But for the channels you've just mentioned, if we put our foot in it, and we would never want to do that and never want to offend people, and you know, Kevin, you're on air, you don't know what's going to offend some people and what's not going to offend others, but it's very easy to offend someone. We can't afford these colossal fines that Channel 4 or ITV could pay off, because we're a very small, perfectly formed, as I said, television channel.
Yeah, and so if you did, I mean, I'm not going to go through them for obvious reasons, but Ofcom offer guidance on lots of words, you know, so they've got like kind of various classifications of moderate, serious, mild, and so on and so forth. But if you break those, they're not quite rules, they're guidance. If you broadcast, shall we say, I know you wouldn't do it, but say you broadcast the N-word, would you get like a massive fine for that?
Well, potentially you could. And, you know, that word is in, is it the 633 Squadron or the Dam Busters?
The Dam Busters. It was the name of Kenneth Moore's dog, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I guess a lot of people in the industry would know that and they would avoid it, but it's very easy to get caught out. Now, we probably wouldn't pitch to buy Love Thy Neighbour or Mind Your Language, because you know that even though the joke is on the white man, I can see why people think that's inappropriate now, and so can the gang at Rewind TV. So we wouldn't pitch for that, but you could easily get caught out in, say you buy 24 episodes of Please Sir, and you watch them, you could easily miss something that someone could complain about. But the other thing, Kevin, is who are these people complaining? Sometimes you kind of get done, or you get hauled over the coals. I've been in that situation when I've been on the radio. I got hauled over the coals by the BBC, even when we had no complaints. And I think the people at Ofcom are worried. They're worried that they may okay something or not act on it, and then they may lose their job if there are some complaints.
Yeah.
So where does the buck stop?
But as I say, I mean, in a free country, it seems to me that people ought to be able to make their own artistic choices. And as I say, sentient adults are well aware that times have changed since the 60s or the 70s or the 80s even. And we should be allowed to deal with that in an adult fashion, as opposed to being treated like children, you know, with silly little warnings. Some of the material you might see you may find offensive and that kind of thing. And of course, it sort of descends into a kind of absurdity, doesn't it, when you learn that Terry and June has now got a trigger warning. Only Fools and Horses have got a trigger warning. Are You Being Served has got a trigger warning. Dad's Army, for God's sake, now gets trigger warnings. These are shows that used to get 20 million viewers. They were enormous hits, and now they are treated as if they're almost forbidden material.
Absolutely, it's crazy. Even Wurzel Gummidge has had a warning about the potential violence in it. I mean, it's a kids' program about a scarecrow.
About a scarecrow, yeah.
And what's made it more confusing, Kevin, is there are some programs, the BBC have taken them off iPlayer, then they've put them back on, then they've taken them off, then they've re-edited them. And a good example of this is Fawlty Towers. John Cleese, Connie Booth wrote that brilliant situation comedy. Yeah. And you may remember the episode about the Germans.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a famous one. And also the Major had a rather derogatory term for cricketers of colour, which we won't go into. So, yeah, there were some references that clearly date that. But, I mean, the German episode, I can't see what's offensive about that.
Well, the BBC have taken it off of iPlayer, the Germans. But getting back to the Major, and don't worry, I'm not going to go anywhere near saying, but the joke was on, so it was what, 1975, an old major who hadn't moved with the times and was out of step and used a word he shouldn't have used back then. The joke was on the major. Now, should that actually be banned from television forever? I don't think so. I don't like the word. I would never use it, even though it's used in just about every other rap song that your kids are listening to.
Yeah.
But that's another argument, but it shouldn't be airbrushed from history.
I totally agree. I think we should be allowed to watch what the hell we like, make up our own decisions. It's a free country and we're sentient adults. Alex, are you in negotiations with Ofcom? Are you trying to sort of escape from this ludicrous straitjacket? Because the implication is, or some people involved in your industry have said, that such are the suffocating nature of some of this guidance that you have to edit programmes so much that they lose all their character, that people who used to love them back in the 70s or 80s wouldn't even recognise them.
Well, the people that watch channels like Rewind TV, they love their classic television, so we don't talk over the theme at the end. We think the whole programme brings back great memories for people, usually when they were younger and they were growing up. So we don't want to touch these programmes unless it's absolutely necessary. So we, not me, because I'm a presenter, I'm not management, but the management are asking Ofcom to treat classic television like you would a classic car. No MOT, no tax. We know it's of its time. Yeah. Let us put it up and teach people and take them on the journey with us, rather than live in this ridiculous... It's all right for you. You work on a station that's the home of common sense. So you get this, Kevin, but I don't want to live in a nanny state. I feel a bit embarrassed if I would have to make that announcement. Like, look, you might find... No one's going to really find it, but we better say it just to cover us. That makes us as bad as everybody else, I think.
I'll tell you, it's interesting what you said about like people kind of connecting with their childhood when they were younger. You're talking about Please Sir. I haven't thought about Please Sir for about 3 decades. John Alterton, wasn't it? And the school was Fen Street, and it had like Sharon and Eric and all those. So, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I'm suddenly remembering all this. And that's why I think what channels like you do it's quite. You do important work, I think, and people love to be connected to their past. Nostalgia is a wonderful form of entertainment, and I don't think you should be straitjacketed.
Well, that's very kind of you to say so, and thank you very much for your support at Talk. I'm a big fan of this channel. Watch it all the time, listen to it in the car when I can't watch it, and I'd like to thank you very much for giving us the oxygen of publicity to just let people know that this is happening. And tonight, when you get in from work, if you want to just relax, go and, if you don't mind me saying,
there we go. Get a bit of advertising now. Go on then. Go on.
Go to Freeview
go ahead.
92, or Sky 182, or Freely 150, and you catch up with your youth.
And if I could just add, don't watch Reform Youth Rewind TV until 10 p.m. when this show is over. No, but seriously. Yeah, I mean, what you are basically, Alex, here is yet another victim of pervasive wokery, the madness of wokery, and I think it's yet another arena in which we must fight to get rid of the shackles of this ludicrous culture, this ludicrous syndrome. Really good to talk to you, Alex. Keep in touch. We'll talk about this again, I'm sure. Alex Dyke there, a presenter at Rewind TV, one of these nostalgia channels. It's ridiculous, isn't it? Let me know what you think. I mean, but the older viewers among you will know, or will remember, please. We'll remember Terry and June gets a trigger warning. Only Fools and Horses. Come on, it's absurd, isn't it? It's wokery gone mad. We need to get rid of wokery altogether, if you ask me. 0344 499 1000. When we come back, your calls, your messages and your WhatsApp voice notes, it's all about you. Get on the line, 0344 499 1000. Let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk. Back in a mo.
Nigel Farage and Reform do not have to do anything at the moment other than not be Labour or the Tories. You know, all he has to do is not be Keir Starmer and not be Kenny Badenoch.
Right.
Now,
but also, I think what will also become a key battleground, of course, will be this business that was introduced by Zia Yusuf on Sunday and Laura Kunsberg and other shows, where he says, you know, we're going to actively challenge the reform councils where we are, particularly in Kent, which will be an interesting one.
the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Go to the phones in just a second. I'll read some messages first. This is from Graham. Regarding illegal immigrants and their human rights, and now more migrants not paying national insurance. I am a former Royal Marine. I served for 25 years. Respect, Graham. I now live on my very modest military pension. I live in rural Portugal because I can't afford to live in the UK. I think we all understand that. I am now married to a non-EU citizen, but unfortunately I can never return to the UK with my wife to live because I don't earn enough on my military pension to meet the requirements to get a marriage visa for my wife. Where are my human rights? Thanks, UK. That's Graham, a man who served this country for 25 years in the Marines. I think he should be allowed to bring his wife to his home country. Don't you? I can't believe that. I can't believe that. Graham, I hope you work it out. I think that's, I couldn't agree with you more. That's a scandal, particularly for someone who served this country. Here is one from Stuart. I like this one. He says, hi, Kev. It appears to me that every time the British people either disagree or vote against Keir Starmer and his ridiculous Labour government, that he goes more anti-British and does even more damage to our once great country. Couldn't agree with you. Absolutely good point, Stuart. I mean, there's the whole nation. Ask anyone on the campaign trail leading up to last week's sensational election results, the local elections and the by-election in Runcorn, the parliamentary by-election in Runcorn. Ask anyone on the campaign trail, whatever party they were in, the big issue was the winter fuel allowance, which Labour cruelly and ill-advisedly axed, only to save not very much money at all. I think it was about £1.4 billion or something, which in the great scheme of things isn't much. Everybody hates that. And what did the government do? Doubled down on it today and said, we're going to carry on. Net zero's the same. Nobody wants this net zero claptrap, and yet this ridiculous government of ours just wants to impose it on us. You know, just force us to go down, to die, if you like, to perish down Ed Miliband's net zero rabbit hole. What are they thinking? Why are they so determined to come up with policies to impose on us, policies that are so detested? And they don't need to do this. They don't need to do this net zero claptrap, and they certainly did not need to freeze pensioners to death by taking away their winter fuel allowance. Apart from the fact that that was cruel, callous, and unnecessary, it was politically incompetent. They'll never recover from this. And what do they do today? They had the chance to wriggle out a bit. No, we're going to carry on with that. Unbelievable. Good message there from Stuart. And similar kind of message here from Nigel Brown. He said, evening, Kev. Starmer seems to want to destroy not only British people, but also the Labour Party. Why don't they see something ominous going on here? And as he says, he is going faster and further. Yeah, you're right. But I don't know, I don't think he has any conception of what he's going faster at, where he's going further to. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. He's just sort of stumbling from one catastrophic day to the next. Let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Cindy. She's a new caller. Love new callers. In Cheltenham. Hi, Cindy. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Hi there.
Hi. You want to talk about gender?
Yeah, listen, you know, my husband and I have had great talks about this, and
your husband's a man and you're a woman, right?
I'm a woman, cisgender, I think they call it.
No, we'll have none of that cis nonsense. So we don't need. I know you wouldn't use it, but cis woman is such an insult.
Disagree with you. It's ridiculous. Why should I call myself anything other than a woman or female? I shouldn't have to do that.
Right. Apologies to the audience, but cis can piss off. Carry on, Cindy.
Right, okay. So listen, it's basic biology and physiology. The egg carries the X chromosome, the sperm carries the XY. It's basic biology. Mm-hmm. At the moment of fertilization, it is decided by the sperm whether you are female or male, right?
Yeah.
You cook quite nicely for 9 months, and then you travel down the birth canal, come out of your mother's vagina, whereupon the person that's delivered you holds you aloft and announces to your parents, congratulations, you have a baby boy, or congratulations, you have a baby girl. That's it. Yeah. That's the end of the argument as far as we are concerned, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, there's been hopefully these dark days are ending, but for the past few years, I think the correct response to the birth of a baby is, congratulations, you've given birth to a baby with a cervix. I mean, we're laughing. I mean, if you didn't laugh, you'd cry. But that has been the level of nonsense that we've had to suffer.
It's absolutely insane. Listen, Don't fall out of the stupid tree. Stay on your branch. Be happy with your branch. Don't try to bend the trunk.
Yeah, my feeling, Cindy, is this. If a guy wants to pretend he's a woman, wants to live as a woman, dress like a woman, put makeup on and all that stuff, if he wants to do that, knock yourself out.
Happy
absolutely. Whatever makes you happy. But don't turn round to me, and indeed you, Cindy, and say I am a biological female, because you're not. Even if you've had surgery, it doesn't make you biologically female.
It doesn't matter what you have stuck to you, implanted in you, or removed from you, or injected into you, or whatever medication or hormones you take, it won't make an F of a difference.
Yeah.
It won't. It just won't.
Exactly. No, of course it won't. You cannot change biological sex, and that is what the Supreme Court correctly decided, was it last Monday week, a couple of weeks ago. Now, we spoke to a lady campaigning for the Hampstead swimming ponds up here in London, where they still are letting blokes in to swim with the women in the women's only spaces, and this is going on all over the country in all sorts of organisations. What do you make of it, Cindy, that all these organisations are railing against that decision?
Well, I think it's ridiculous. I think they're just opening themselves for problems. Yeah. They are marginalising the real people that matter, the women and the men.
Yeah.
Let's keep it real. Otherwise, take down your posters, banisters that say ponds for women, ponds for men. Take it down and just have a great big bloody open lake for everybody.
Yeah.
Don't have it. Don't say that you've got a woman's pond if you're letting him know.
It's outrageous. It's outrageous. It's going to take a while, Cindy. There'll be a lot of legal actions in the months and years to come, but in the end we will get there. Common sense will prevail because it is now the law. I just had an idea, by the way. So next time one of these activists says, "You have a cis woman," and we go, "Well, we don't want to call them cis women." Because they're women. They don't need to be called cis women. So, but we could do a deal with them and say, look, OK, we'll refer to real women as cis women if it's OK by you that we refer to trans women as pretend women. Do you think they'd like that? She's gone. Oh, she's still. They wouldn't like that, would they?
No, they wouldn't like it.
Yeah, well, let's do it then, hey?
I'm on your team. I'm with you all the way.
And I'm with you all the way, Cindy. Great call. New caller, but don't make this your last call. Call me back. Regards to your husband. Cindy there in Cheltenham. Let's go to break. More of your calls, more of your WhatsApp voice notes, more of your messages when we come back.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to the phones in just a second, but first let's play a WhatsApp voice note. This is from Michael, and it is on the Indian trade deal.
Hiya, Kev. Starmer is saying that Labour now need to go harder and faster with their plans. He added to that today that he wants the UK people to feel the effects every day. What could he mean by that? We already do. Then he offers foreign workers national insurance-free work. Should we be scared about what's next? What's this absolute plonker up to?
It's a good point. I mean, when you say, I'm going to go harder and faster, what? What do you mean harder and faster? You haven't done anything except screw things up. I don't know what he's talking about. It's really quite disturbing. I don't think he has a clue what he's doing. And if you think that all this nonsense he's coming out with at the moment, you know, I get it. After the Reform UK annihilation of Labour and the Tories last week, this absolute political earthquake, this revolution, where the nation spoke and said, we are sick to death of this government, we are sick to death of the Tories, and no one cares about the Lib Dems or the Greens, basically, despite the fact that, oh, we've done really well, nobody cares. So the nation spoke out against the government, spoke out against the Tories, and Keir Starmer said, I'll get it. And basically said he's going to double down on all his policies that were so unpopular, he got annihilated by reform. Harder and further and harder. No, Keir, we want you to go in reverse. We want you to stop all this. I get it. You clearly do not. Joanna from Salisbury has written and said, oh my God, Starmer sells the UK down the river again. India's mutually beneficial deal. I'm sure I remember that Rishi Sunak held off agreeing a deal because they wanted more access to immigration migration into the UK. Oh my God, no national insurance on new immigration jobs, not UK employees. You're right, the Tories rejected this. They said, oh, we're giving you free NI, national insurance. No. Kemi Badenoch, actually, I think she was business secretary. Or was it international secretary, whatever. She is the one that blocked this, and Rishi Sunak agreed. But it's OK by Keir. Dear. Let's go back to the phones. Let's talk to Claire in the Wirral. Hi, Claire.
Hi, Kevin. Good to talk to you.
Always a pleasure.
I used to go on WhatsApp, and send you messages, but for some reason my WhatsApp just isn't working.
Isn't it?
So
well, you can always send them to me, no problem.
Oh, right, OK.
We'll try and work that out. But, you used to leave voice notes, didn't you?
Yeah,
your voice notes were great.
I did, but they're being read, but they're not actually getting through.
We need to sort that out because I love. We'll sort that out, Claire, because I love your WhatsApp voice notes. They're good.
Well, I used to love sending the voice, but honestly, it's been weeks and I haven't been able to do it.
Well, we'll work that out. What would you want to talk about, Kemi Badenoch?
I did, because you were talking about Kemi Badenoch and her chances of staying leader. But can she see the wood from the trees, Kevin? Because, there's a lot of rotten wood in her party. And the thing about Kemi is that her party, as leader of her party is made up of a lot of different factions. A lot of Labour-leaning and Liberal-leaning factions in her party. And I think she's aware of this, but she can't weed out these factions without dismantling the party. And also, if she does try and do so and be more conservative, then there's going to be a lot of those factions that are going to be fighting against her. And they'll want to sort of get her out as leader anyway. They'll want to...
Well, I'll be honest with you, Claire. I mean, I don't dislike Kemi Badenoch. I quite like some of the things she says, some of the ideas she has. But her problem is, and bearing in mind, she's definitely sort of from the right of the Tory party, or rightish. She's right of centre, if you like, Tory-wise. But she's not right-wing enough, in my view. I mean, and the whole problem with the Tories, who really are now trapped in a seriously existential crisis. This might be the end of the road for them. Farage might be right. They might be in their death throes, because their problem is for the last whatever it is, 14 years since Cameron got in, they've stopped being conservative. They've got less and less conservative. Why are Reform doing so well? Because they are what the Conservatives used to be. They espouse the policies that the Tories used to espouse. And the Tories, meanwhile, have sort of disappeared into some sort of semi-Guardian reading Labour-like territory.
Yeah, and I think this is, this has been the problem really with the Conservatives. They don't have those conservative values anymore.
Exactly.
Very left-leaning. And this is what's destroyed them, during the election. And they're really a busted flush. And what worries me is, there are a lot of people talking about, well, Reform and, the Conservatives should get together. But that will be the death knell for Reform because of the different factions that are still there in the Conservative Party that have basically ruined the party, really.
There's too many lefties in the Tory party. Exactly, that's the problem. I mean, all of them, all of them. Oh, I don't think we should leave the European Court of Human Rights and all this kind of stuff. Well, you should, and they don't want to turn the boats round. They don't want to detain and deport. They don't want to do anything tough about the migrant crisis. I mean, they're not the Conservative Party. They're not Tories anymore, and that's the problem. I mean, Cameron was bad enough. Theresa May, I mean, she was basically a left-wing Lib Dem at best. With this net zero claptrap that we're stuck with now is because she passed a ridiculous law committing this country by law to get to net zero by 2050. That was the Tories did that. Why?
Yeah, and also I think, with Kemi saying, I mean, I know she's kind of changed her mind about the ECHR. Yeah, exactly. And I'm wondering really who she's trying to keep in with, I mean, she's really, really got to show her colours, because if she doesn't show her colours, nobody's going to know really what the Tories
tend to be. What the Tories have been for 14 years and probably right up until now is terrified of Labour. They've always thought that Labour will rise and rise and rise, and with all this wokery and left-wing leanings of the country, that somehow or other that the people would gravitate towards Labour. So they turned themselves, the Tories, into Labour light. They're the ones with all the net zero policies. They're the ones with all the migrant-friendly policies, these left-wing type policies. And suddenly the people of this country said, we've had enough of this, and ironically then voted Labour. But people say conservatism is dead. No, it isn't. It's dead in the Conservative Party, but it's alive and well in Reform UK. Reform UK is just what the Tories used to be. And that's when the Tories were successful. So you're absolutely right. Claire, I've got to move on, but great to actually talk to you. And we'll have a look at the WhatsApp situation, because, I want you to phone up and we'll talk in the future. But also, we'll sort this WhatsApp voice note thing out so that you can send us some more, because you're really good at it. Great to talk to you. Thank you very much, Claire in the Wirral. Before we go to break, let's play another WhatsApp voice note. This is Dave again on the India trade deal.
Good evening, Kevin. On this India deal, do you realise there's over 500,000 people from India come to the UK in the last 2 years? And how many visas have been given out? Another 500,000? And they're not going to pay any national insurance. Surely it's going to be cheaper in the long run, 20% cheaper to hire people from India than hiring people from Britain.
Well, that's the point, Dave, that employers here will rush to employ these arriving Indians, these new Indian workers that are going to come here. Yet more people, workers on a foreign visa, coming to this country. But the employers will find them very attractive, because you don't have to pay any national insurance. They're going to be a lot cheaper to hire than British workers. As Robert Jenrick said in Starmer's Britain, British workers come last. Extraordinary. Let's go to break. When we come back, more calls, more WhatsApp voice notes and messages. Stick around.
Nigel Farage and Reform do not have to do anything at the moment other than not be Labour or the Tories. You know, all he has to do is not be Keir Starmer and not be Kenny Badenoch.
Right.
Now,
but also, I think what will also become a key battleground, of course, will be this business that was introduced by Zia Yusuf on Sunday and Laura Kunzberg and other shows, where he says, you know, we're going to actively challenge the reform councils where we are, particularly in Kent, which will be an interesting one.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Back to the phones in just a second. A last WhatsApp voice note. This is from Carl, again on the India trade deal. A lot of people very wound up about that. What do you got to say, Carl? Take it away.
I'm actually a mortgage and insurance broker. I work for myself, but I'm quite busy at the moment. So I think what I'll do, I need to increase my workforce to give me a bit of an helping hand. So what I'll do, I think I'll give an Indian lad a job as an apprentice and train him up as a mortgage broker, because it'll be 20% cheaper for my business. Yeah, what a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think Carl's being slightly jocular about that, but slightly facetious. But a lot of people, Carl, thanks very much, by the way, a lot of employers will do just that, as you say. It could be as much as 20% cheaper. So hiring these new Indian workers who've come over on yet more foreign visas will be very cheap for employers. So if they've got a choice between a Brit or one of these Indian workers, the Brits going to lose out. Make no doubt about that. This is from Cider Mark. He said, maybe I'm coming late to the party, but I haven't heard anyone talking about the rejection by von der Leyen, that's Ursula von der Leyen, the EU Commissioner, to Leyer Starmer's request to access the EU's migration and security intelligence databases. This now gives Starmer 2 get-outs. We can't stop them boats because the EU won't share intel, or the only way we can stop the boats is to rejoin the EU. Yeah, that's more likely. Either way, Starmer can blame someone else for another failure. Cheers, Kev. Keep up the rants. Well, I will keep up the rants, Cider Mark, because I'm always angry, and I think there's a lot to be angry about. Michael Humpage says, so Indian workers will have full access to NHS services but contribute nothing? Whoever is doing these deals is a complete imbecile. That's Mick in Walsall. I think you got a good point there, Mick. Right, let's. We've still got some time. Petri Hoskin will be in just a couple of minutes to tell you what she's got lined up for your entertainment from 10 p.m. until 1 a.m. But in the meantime, we can still squeeze in a couple of calls. So let's first go to Patricia in Reigate. Hello, Patricia.
Hello there. Hello, Kevin.
Hi.
Thank you for calling.
Now, what would you like to say?
Well, I think we ought to have a referendum in this country to get this government out.
I wish we could, Patricia. I wish we could. I mean, the point is, I get so many calls of people saying, surely there's something we can do to get rid of this government. I'm afraid that the answer, I've got a note here that you're 81 and 83, you and your husband, so you've been around a few years. You know, we've made our bed and we've got to lie on it electorally, haven't we?
Oh dear.
Yeah, I know, it is an old dear, but there's nothing we can do. We're stuck with this lot for 4 years. So have you, in your long life, have you seen a government as bad as this?
No.
It's that bad, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. Sorry? Nothing comes close, my husband said.
Nothing comes close. Yeah, it's terrible, isn't it? It's terrible.
It really, really is.
Have you two lost your winter fuel allowance?
Yes.
That's awful.
Yeah, we're looking forward to getting it back.
Yeah, it might be 4 years' time, though. It might be 4 years' time.
I know. But I worry about the children, our grandchildren, actually.
The country they're growing up in, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, we've the VE Day celebrations yesterday. They're still going on, actually, but we all watched them yesterday. Did you feel? I mean, I'm not quite as old as you, but I'm not exactly a spring chicken. I felt yesterday. I mean, I enjoyed the celebrations, obviously, Britain's greatest hour and all that, but it also reminded me that we sort of lost the Britain we used to have. The fantastic country where the people of this country, rose to the occasion and backed the government and made tremendous sacrifices so we won that war. I just don't think it would happen today, do you?
No, I don't. I really don't. No, it's very sad. It is. We find it very sad, my husband and I, that this is how it is now here. And there's nothing we can do, is there?
I'm afraid there isn't. To go back to your original point, a referendum to get rid of the government would be lovely. They won't let us have one, obviously. I'm afraid a lot of people voted Labour because, quite rightly, I totally sympathise. They were sick to death of those useless Tories. And so they voted Labour, protest vote, and then they thought, oh my God, what have we done?
Yes.
You didn't vote Labour, did you, Patricia?
No, I didn't.
Good.
No. No. We voted for
reform.
We were always conservative. We were Labour many years ago.
Yeah.
Our parents were because they were for the working class.
Mm.
And then it was Tories, wasn't it? It was the Tories with Thatcher.
What did you vote in the last election? Reform or the Tories?
Yeah, no, it was Reform.
Reform. Good for you.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Patricia, the good news is it's the summer. So allegedly it's going to be a lot warmer, so you won't miss your winter fuel allowance. Although, I don't know if you've stepped out in the last few days, you could do with some winter fuel allowance. It's absolutely freezing. But listen, what's your husband's name?
Bruce.
Bruce. My very best to you and Bruce, and please call me again. It's good talking to you. Thanks a lot, Patricia. Take care. Patricia in Reigate there. And let's quickly talk to Jane in Marbella, is it? Are you in Marbella, Jane? Correct.
Yep.
You just got back from Israel.
I have just returned from Israel. I went over for a week to visit my secular nephew, his wife, and 2 young kids.
Okay. And I got a note here, Jane, that you wouldn't know there was a war on.
Correct. The restaurants are packed to capacity.
Wow.
Hotels, there are no tourists, but at the weekend, the locals, people from 20, 30 kilometres away, are meeting up to celebrate birthdays.
Whereabouts in Israel were you, Jane?
Well, I'm 8 kilometres from Tel Aviv.
Okay, that's a great city. That's a great city. Food's fantastic.
Absolutely. But you know, you just wouldn't. Would you believe I was even able to watch the Crystal Palace Aston Villa semi-final from Wembley?
You're not a Villa fan, are you? Or are you a Crystal Palace fan?
No, I'm actually Crystal Palace.
Well, yeah. So you had a very good afternoon. Listen, Jane, very interesting. Thank you. Call me again. I know you've called in the past, haven't you? I've got to move on though. Jane in Marbella there, saying that in Israel you wouldn't even know there's a war on. Petri Hoskin is in the studio. Hi, Petri.
Hello. Good evening to you. So I'm going to be talking about Hollywood and movies.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really interesting to me, this whole idea of tariffs on movies, because there are so many co-productions, there are so many post-production,